the dark haze. Ladies of the night with eyes of red, vampires in the alleys where good men dread, wolfmen howling beneath the pale moon. But justice is coming and coming soon. From saloons to graveyards where evil sleeps, they walk among us, secrets they keep, nightmare hunters with souls ablaze, cleaning up this town through the dark haze. Cryptids themselves, yet they stand tall against the darkness, answering the call for every lost soul, every whispered prayer. They fight for the light in the midnight air. From saloons to graveyards where evil sleeps, they walk among us, secrets they keep, nightmare hunters with souls ablaze, cleaning up this town through the dark haze. The night is young, the hunt begins. For against the darkness where hope never ends.
Good evening, folks, and thank you all for joining us in another edition of the Nightmare Hunters podcast. In the studio with me tonight is Robbie Jed Rains. Apparently, Doc was a little busy tonight, and Steve has to work on Wednesday nights, so it's just got to put up the two of us, but we might have a late Doc sighting. We haven't heard for sure yet, so he might pop in at some time between now and a commercial break, but hopefully he can, but if he doesn't, we get it because he's been busy at work. So, Robbie, how the heck are you, brother?
Doing pretty good. How are you?
Not too bad. I tell you, I didn't sleep worth a dang last night. My butt has been dragging the ground all day long. I got maybe 3 hours sleep. And when you and I were talking before we went live, I was sitting over here going, I was starting to doze off, but that song picked me right up. It always does.
That's why you kept having to say, huh? I thought it was just because I wasn't interesting.
No, it's because I kept dozing off on you. We got a big group already. Man, over 100 already, and we're just barely getting started. Whew, it's going to be a good one tonight. I'm pretty excited. And I tell you, since we've switched over to UNX and we've started this new format, I think the shows go a lot tighter, and I think we've got a bigger audience engagement, and I've noticed a lot more names are starting to show up in the chat. So if you guys are new here, we want to welcome you guys to the Nightmare Nation, and let me throw the little reminder up there to make sure you guys are, if you haven't yet, like, share, and subscribe. Hold on, I don't think we actually have one that says like, share, and subscribe. Maybe we don't. Yeah, we'll just leave that one up there. But if you guys are new to the channel, hopefully you guys are enjoying the content that we have, and I would appreciate if you guys would like, share, and subscribe to the channel. But we're going to jump right into this rascal tonight, and Robbie and I will kind of pat the ball back and forth like a ping pong ball as we get through these stories tonight, and we got some good ones, so I really think you guys are going to enjoy them. Tonight is all about when the woods strike back, real sightings, real attacks, and a final disappearance. It started with shadows, and it ended with somebody gone. The woods don't always wait for you to make the first move. Sometimes they strike first. Tonight, we're traveling across North America, deep into the forests, mountains, and backcountry trails where the line between wildlife and something else gets real thin real fast. These aren't legend, folks. These aren't campfire stories. These are real, documented encounters pulled from ranger logs, FOIA releases, eyewitness reports, and case files that investigators still can't explain. It always begins the same way. A dark shadow crossing the trail just at dusk, or a figure watching from the tree line. Maybe a shape that stands too still for, just a heartbeat too long. Then the behavior shifts. Something follows hikers for miles without ever showing its face. Something circles a campsite just outside the firelight. Something moves through the timber with purpose, quiet, fast, and aware. And then the woods hit back. Cabins slammed hard enough to crack support beams. Hunters knocked flat by something massive and unseen. Boats rammed from below in deep, cold water. Vehicles shoved sideways on remote logging roads, and rangers charged by something that left no tracks but left them shaken. These aren't warnings, and these aren't misunderstandings. These are attacks. And in our final case tonight, someone doesn't come back. A disappearance with no tracks, a scent with no trail, no scent trail, no struggle, just a person swallowed by the timber, and a search team left with more questions than answers. This is Nightmare Hunters, folks, episode 403. Tonight you'll hear what happens when the woods strike back. And if you've ever been out in the woods and felt like something was pacing you, not following, pacing, we want to hear your story. Send your encounters to D.A. Roberts at daroberts.net. Your experience might be the next case we cover. And if you want to help keep the Nightmare Hunters alive and growing, make sure to like this episode, share it with someone who loves the strange, and subscribe so you can never miss what comes next. And that's going to lead us right into the first segment. But before we jump into that, I'd like to say thank you to all of the gift memberships. Chicken Bird gifted 5.
And Bobby Singleton.
And Bobby. Chicken Bird and Bobby, both of you. Awesome. Thank you guys so much. And at some point tonight, we're going to give away some memberships too, because it's the new month and we've got that to go. So Robbie, you want to jump right into segment 1?
Sure thing.
Folks, one thing to pay attention to tonight is they get increasingly creepy as it goes along.
Segment 1, is it Klamath or Klamath?
Klamath.
The Klamath River Tall Man, a creepy sighting. Del Norte Triplicate, 1976 Sheriff's Interview. The Klamath River is one of those places where the world feels older than it should. The trees lean in close, the fog hangs low, and the silence, it has a weight. It was late summer of 1976 when 2 local fishermen, Tom and Ray, put their aluminum boat into the river just after dawn. They weren't looking for trouble. They weren't chasing legends. They were after steelhead, same as every other weekend. The river was calm. The morning was cool. And the only sound was the soft slap of water against the hull. They drifted along a bend where the bank rises steep and dark, a wall of timber that blocks out half the sky. Tom was trying on a new lure when Ray froze, staring at something in the tree line. "Did you see that?" he whispered. At first, Tom didn't. The shadows were thick, layered, shifting with the breeze. But then one of them didn't shift. It stood still, a little too still. A tall, narrow silhouette stood between 2 cedars, motionless, upright, watching. Tom squinted. Ray stopped breathing. Neither one of them spoke. The figure stepped forward, not out of the trees, just enough for the light to catch its outline. Shoulders too broad, arms too long, head brushing the lower branches. It didn't crouch. It didn't hide. It just stood there, as if it had been waiting for them to notice it. Tom whispered, "That's not a man." Ray nodded, eyes wide. The boat drifted. The figure moved, not toward them, but parallel, matching their speed, keeping pace with the slow drift of the current. Every few seconds, it would disappear behind a tree, then reappear between the next pair of trunks, smooth, controlled, and deliberate. Tom said later that the movement was the part that scared him the most. Not the size, not the silence, but the way it moved, like it knew exactly how fast the river was carrying them. Ray finally found his voice. "Start the motor!" Tom didn't argue. He reached for the pull cord, and the figure stopped. It stood there, half hidden, half revealed, as if deciding what to do next. The forest around it went dead quiet. No birds, no insects, no wind, just the river and the thing watching them. Tom yanked the cord, and the engine sputtered. The figure stepped forward again. Ray grabbed the oar, ready to push off if it came down to the bank. He said later he didn't know what he'd do if it actually charged. He just knew he needed something in his hands. The engine finally caught, the boat lurched, and the figure stepped back in the trees. Not in fear, not in surprise, just retreating, as if the moment was over, as if it had seen enough. Tom and Ray didn't speak for the next half mile. They didn't fish. They didn't look back. They just motored upriver until they reached a wider stretch where the sun finally broke through the canopy. Only then did Ray say, "We're telling someone." They went straight to the sheriff's office. Deputies took their statements separately. Both men described the same thing, a tall, dark figure pacing them from tree line, matching their drift, stepping behind trees with unnatural smoothness. The next morning, deputies walked the bank. They found 14-inch tracks in the mud, deep, wide, human-shaped, but not human. The sheriff didn't file it as a crime. He didn't call Fish and Game. He didn't write Bigfoot in the report. He just wrote one word: unexplained. And that was the end of it. But Tom and Ray never fished that bend again. They never forgot the feeling of being watched by something that understood the river better than they did. Yeah, that's a spooky way to start the morning.
Yeah. Well, 14-inch tracks are not the biggest ones we've ever heard of, but they were photographed and processed by deputies.
Plenty big enough. I mean,
yeah, that's still 14 inches ain't nothing to sneeze at. That's a good size foot.
That's Shaquille O'Neal sized foot.
Yeah. And it said the track showed mid-foot pressure, not heel to toe, which is different.
Yep.
Also, no claw marks, so that rules out bears.
It do.
Well, there was also no bear sign in the area.
Well, and a bear may stand up on its hind legs to walk when the first time it sees them.
Yeah, but it's not going to follow them through the trees like that.
Follow them down the river on two legs, and not be smooth and fluid doing it.
No kidding. Yeah, I would definitely be picking a different fishing spot if that was me.
Yeah, like a different river,
right?
In a different state.
It following them, paralleling them like that—that's predator behavior.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it was just watching them. I think it was wondering if it could put as we used to say, the old habeas grabus on them.
And, the fact that it was matching the speed of the current of the river, that kind of is telling there too that, it's probably not the first time it's done that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'd definitely say it's probably done it before. But a 14-inch track, what do you think? Juvenile? Or maybe a female?
Juvenile, female, young adolescent, something like that. Definitely not a full-grown male. But, yeah, I mean, still 14 inches, you're still looking at probably something that's 9.5, 10 feet tall.
Oh, yeah, still a big animal.
Yeah. So, I mean, still big enough to scare the heebies and the jeebies, as you like to say, out of them.
Yeah, it'd get both the heebies and the jeebies for damn sure. But no vocalizations, though. The whole time they saw it, it never made a vocalization.
Yeah, I mean,
that's interesting.
Even
when they got in the distance, they didn't hear a vocalization. So to me, that would indicate it wasn't really trying to scare them off.
No,
if it was trying to scare them, it would have made some sort of vocalization.
Maybe it was just plain out curiosity.
Could be.
Look at the two goofy things floating in the river.
Yeah, what the heck is that?
Or maybe it was watching to see if they caught fish and
wanting to steal them.
Yeah.
That wouldn't be the first time we've heard of fishermen losing fish.
Yep. So I mean, but there again, like we say, folks, this is just us spitballing, throwing
Right.
stuff, seeing what sticks against the wall. Because who knows? Nobody really knows what they were doing or what it was doing. You know, it could have been one of 100 different things that it was.
I think it's pretty interesting that the deputies and the sheriff didn't just dismiss them.
No, that's because usually that most of the time just out of hand. As soon as they say something like that, they're like, okay, yeah.
But they interviewed them separate, and their stories were consistent.
Yeah, and for y'all, those of you who don't know, that's standard procedure. When you got two guys come in and claim something like that, like DA and I are partners, and that happened, or if we went out on a call and you got two people saying that a third person stole something from them, you're going to take them and interview them separately, and then DA and I are going to come back and say, okay, what'd your guy say? He said,
Yeah, that's fairly
What'd your
typical
guy
in
say?
just
He
about
said,
any investigations to separate them, especially a domestic, because you get his side, her side, and the truth is usually somewhere in the middle.
Yeah. But you go back and in this situation, them interviewing them separately, they come back and they say, all right, what he say? They look at his statement. What he say? Look at his statement, and the statements match up. Yeah, you can say that. Okay, they had plenty of time between wherever they were at and the station to get their story straight. But usually, when you get in a stressful situation, which being interviewed by the police a lot of times is a stressful situation, you get there and you have to write this sworn statement down. It can be hard to remember everything if you put a story together like that. But the stories match up. That's a pretty good indication that what they're telling you is something that they believe, and it's not anything made up. So, and I think that probably lent to at least why the deputy said, okay, well, let's at least go out there and check it out.
Right. And then they find 14-inch tracks. So, this case was clearly documented, and it looks to me like law enforcement took it seriously.
And, we don't know, but how many reports have they got in that area about something like that too? So,
well, up in the Klamath, I'm guessing they probably get them fairly frequently.
Yeah. So that's probably got something to do with it too. This is not, a place where this is the first time somebody ever come in saying that. And for them to put unexplained instead of just unknown animal, just put plain out unexplained, that kind of says
they couldn't explain it and they're not trying to.
Exactly.
My brother Ronnie, he's retired now, but he was a cop in Walla Walla, Washington, and he said that the department there, at the PD in town, there wasn't a week went by they didn't get at least a couple of Bigfoot reports.
Oh yeah, that's Pacific Northwest, right? Still,
yeah, it's still Washington State. It's on the eastern side of Washington near the Idaho border, but yeah, it's still Washington.
I mean, that's probably one of the biggest hot spots in the country.
Yeah, a lot of sightings up there.
So,
but that one you just read, that one kind of hits my credibility meter, because apparently the law enforcement that did interview it found enough credible evidence that they made a case file. They photographed footprints, they took their statements, and they didn't dismiss it, and they didn't just go man in costume or something like that. They didn't offer some pathetic excuse. They legitimately investigated and said, we can't tell you what this is. We don't know.
Pathetic excuse as in what? Raccoon?
Yeah, raccoon. Must have been a raccoon. That's one big dang raccoon. Did you see the size of that 14-foot raccoon?
It's just a regular raccoon, but its feet were 14 inches long.
That's right.
That's a goofy looking raccoon.
Hey, you hear it walking down the trail going smack, smack, smack as those feet flap to the ground like duck feet or a dude walking with flippers on. But yeah, that's a good story. I like that one.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think that one's really high on the credibility meter. And like you said, just for nothing else, that it was plausible and credible enough for law enforcement to say, okay, well, we need to go out there and at least take a look at it and see what's going on.
And that their stories lined up even after interviewed separately.
Yeah, and
That probably told them right then and there. I'm like, these guys clearly saw something. Whether or
Yeah.
not it was a Bigfoot, they don't know. They clearly didn't say that in the report. But obviously, these guys were shook up, and their stories were consistent enough. It was a story that bared checking out.
and obviously they find footprints were right where the people or the guys said that it was false. I mean, you know, you put two and two together, usually you get four.
Yeah, and the way that they described the prints, that sounds suggestive of a mid-tarsal break. How the weight was put toward the center as that mid-tarsal break come apart as the foot flexed.
And I still think that in itself kind of lends credence to what we talked about how they are able to not make sound because it just distributes the weight. So and I think that they even said that it didn't make a lot of sound when it was moving.
So Robbie, you being the tracker, how would the mid-tarsal break affect the pressure ridges?
That's a good question. Let's see if I can explain this the best way I know how. Like, if you're this being the ground, this being your foot, when you hit the ground in a normal step, primary point of impact being your heel, and you move forward, pressure ridges are what are everything around the outside of the track and any stuff you push up on the inside of the track. So your foot hits the ground pretty much flat and rigid because we're wearing shoes. Now, if you're walking barefoot, it's not as pronounced because you don't. But that, if you're wearing shoes, it's got a heel in it, you're going to get a more distinct pressure ridge because that heel being hard is going to push more dirt and debris into the middle of that back of the heel, or I guess that would be the front of the heel on your shoe, and disperse it out a little bit more. But that mid-tarsal break, if it does what we're saying that it does, if it helps relieve that pressure and spread the weight out, how I would say that it probably helps, or how it affects it rather, is when their foot comes down, I would think instead of it coming down like ours like this, they probably make it come down more all at once, like that mid-tarsal break probably hits first and then allow it more like this, and then when it comes down, it fans like that. So you're not going to have as distinct pressure ridges around the outside, and you're really not going to have one in the middle where the heel or anything would be. So I think it kind of comes down almost like a feather floating down. If that makes sense.
That'd be a real good way to indicate whether or not it was a fake footprint or an actual footprint. Oh, yeah. If you've got the well-defined pressure ridges, it's probably somebody with one of those fake casts.
I would say, well, because you think about it, if you're making fake footprints out of a plaster cast, that plaster cast is going to be rigid just like the bottom of your shoe.
Right.
But if their foot is actually working with that mid-tarsal break, like have you ever played that game where you put your hand on a hard object like that and just let it loose and you hit the top of your hand but it doesn't hurt because your hand is like a shock absorber? That's what I think the mid-tarsal break is like a shock absorber when they step, and it'll fan it out, but it won't be distinct because it's spread out over such a long. That's why they're so wide, and it's because it just spreads all that pressure out.
You know what I think, and again, this is just me being an uneducated hick from Missouri. This is my 2 cents worth. I think that mid-tarsal break not only allows for the dispersing of the pressure ridges, like you were saying. I think it also, when they go to all fours, which they've been reported a number of times being on all fours, I think that extra hinge allows them to use just the front half of their foot to move much faster on all fours, kind of like what a gorilla does.
I think that's why you get a lot of partial tracks, because if that happens like you're talking about, these partial tracks where people can't figure out where the rest of the foot is, that's probably where the rest of the foot is. It's up off the ground, and you're just like you said, you're just getting that front part.
Well, the tracks that I found next to the cabin in Gatlinburg, there was that one pristine, and then the ones above it were only partials.
Well, I remember the one I told you me and Johnny found. We
Mhm.
thought it was just because they stepped up on the first one we found. This is where they stepped up, but going up and looking, you couldn't. They weren't defined, but they were still only like half of the track. I think it was walking on its
Well,
from
with that incline where I got that track at it being a 45-degree angle, I imagine the first couple, because the first couple impressions, the second one was the most defined, but that first one looked like a full imprint. The second one was perfect, and then by that point they were partially up that grade, and I bet it went to all fours. I bet that's why we only got partial tracks from there on.
Yeah. Well, I think it stood there for a little while because as deep as that one that you sent was,
Well,
that
that's
was
the side where Annette got the wall slapped.
But there looked.
Thank you, Linda.
I didn't see it in person. I saw, but just looking at the picture you saw, it looked like there was a lot of dwell time on that track. So I think
It was deep.
I think it stood there for a while. Maybe that 1 foot flat on the ground. Maybe the other one kind of supporting it going up the hill and doing a lot of swaying back and forth because it looked like it was kind of wallered into the ground a little bit.
Yeah.
So I
Well,
think
it was very deep.
Yeah.
You know, that was an inch and a half I set into the ground, and
yeah.
I barely made an impression in the soil next to it.
Yeah, so I think it stood there for a little bit before it walked on up, but you're probably right. It probably at that point went on into. That's why you couldn't find anything other than just little scuff marks.
Well, that right there where it stood would just, if you could look at the picture, just back from that was that window she said she got growled at from, and that window was easily 10, 12 feet off the ground.
Yeah. So yeah, that's my personal opinion on how the mid-tarsal brake works. I think it comes down like, instead of coming down like our foot like this, it comes down like that, and it just allows everything to spread out. You know, I would go so far as to think if like say they were laying on their backs and they held their feet up, their feet would not look as wide as a lot of the tracks that we see. Because
right.
when it goes down, it allows it to splay out more because of that brake. So and spread that weight out. So I think that's why a lot of they're still very big and very wide. But you know, when you talk about some of them we've talked about have been what 7, 8 inches wide, which is pretty wide for a track.
That's a wide track.
I would imagine when their foot picks up off the ground, it probably goes from, let's say, 8 inches wide to probably like maybe more like 5.5, 6 inches wide, which is still wide.
Yeah.
But when it hits, it spreads out.
Right.
And it allows that weight to distribute more.
Which would also help it to walk a lot quieter as well.
Yep.
Well, do you want to read the intro into segment 2?
Surely. If you think that was unsettling, just a silent figure watching from the tree line, our next case takes us to the Blue Ridge Parkway. Not in my backyard.
Yeah.
Where something stood on an overlook wall at dawn and stepped off on the wrong side, a side no human could survive. Segment 2 is coming up. DA?
This one's called the Blue Ridge Overlook Watcher. It happened in 1994, and this was documented in the Blue Ridge Parkway maintenance logs, plus the local paper mentioned it as well. The Blue Ridge Parkway is beautiful in the daytime. Rolling mountains, soft light, endless overlooks. But at dawn, before the sun clears the ridge lines, it feels like a different world. Cold, empty, and very, very quiet. It was early spring of 1994 when a maintenance worker named Evan drove up to the overlook near milepost 312 to clear fallen branches after an overnight storm. He'd done this route for years. He knew every curve, every turnout, and every overlook wall. But that morning, something felt wrong the moment he stepped out of the truck. The air was still, no birds, no wind, just the low hum of the engine cooling behind him. He grabbed his gloves and walked toward the overlook wall and froze. Someone was standing on the stone barrier. At first, he thought it was a hiker, maybe somebody watching the sunrise, but the sun wasn't up yet, and the figure wasn't moving, not even a shift of weight, just standing there. Evan called out, "Hey, you okay up there?" No response. He took a few steps closer, The figure was tall, taller than any hiker he'd ever seen, broad shoulders, long arms, completely still. He called out again, "Sir? Ma'am? You need help?" Still nothing. He walked closer with his boots crunching on the gravel. The figure didn't turn, it didn't flinch, it didn't acknowledge him at all. But that's when he noticed something that made his stomach drop. The figure wasn't wearing a backpack. He wasn't wearing bright hiking gear. He wasn't wearing anything that he could clearly make out. It was just dark, a silhouette, a shape that absorbed the weak morning light instead of reflecting it. Evan felt the hair on his arms start to rise. Something deep in his brain, something old and primitive, told him not to get any closer. But he had a job to do, and he couldn't just leave someone standing on a wall with a 100-foot drop on the other side. So he took another step. "Hey, you need to get down from there. It's not safe." The figure finally moved. Not toward him. Away. Just a shift. A slight turn of the head, like it was acknowledging him for the first time. Evan said later that the movement was wrong. Too smooth, too controlled. Like if the figure wasn't just adjusting its balance. It was just rotating as if its feet were rooted to the stone. He took one more step, and the figure stepped off the far side of the wall. Not down onto the overlooked path, not toward the parking lot, but off the back of the wall, the side with the sheer drop. Evan sprinted forward, heart pounding, expecting to see a body tumbling down the slope. But when he reached the wall and looked over, there was nothing there. No body, no movement, no sound. Just the steep, leaf-covered slope dropping away into the trees. He scrambled along the wall, searching for any sign of a fall, broken branches, disturbed leaves, anything. Nothing. He climbed down a few feet, gripping roots and rocks and scanning the slope. Still nothing. He climbed back up, breathing hard, and looked at the top of the wall. That's when he saw them. Footprints. 2 large impressions on the stone surface, one near the center, one near the edge. Bare, human shape, but too big and too wide and too deep to be a normal human. And none of them were on the slope below. Evan backed away, shaking. He got in his truck and radioed his supervisor with his voice trembling. When the supervisor arrived, he found Evan pale, sweating, and refusing to go near the wall again. The maintenance log recorded the incident as unidentified individual observed at overlook. Possible fall. No body found. But the supervisor added a handwritten note in the margin. Footprints on the wall, none below. Very strange. The local paper ran a tiny blurb about a possible hiker sighting, but no missing persons were reported. No hikers came forward. No one claimed to have been at the overlook that morning. And the figure Evan saw? That one stood still too. That one stood too still, too tall, and too silent, but it was never seen again. But the footprints stayed in his memory because they shouldn't have been there, and they shouldn't have ended where they did.
That's kind of... I don't know that I would have climbed over that wall and got down in there.
I don't know that I would have either. I'd have probably shined my light down, like looked over the edge and shined my light down there. But in my luck, I'd have seen eyes shine looking back at me and I'd been like, would you look at the time?
You know, we all know I'm crazy and I'll go out, but I don't know if I'm going over a sheer drop like that. Because number one, I'm scared to death of heights. Number two,
I am too.
You get down in there and that thing grabs a hold of you. You ain't got nowhere to go but down.
That, yeah, I could deal with the creature. It's the heights that would have got me. I'd have been peering over the edge like, I'm not getting too close.
Okay, you look good.
Like Kilroy was here just...
Hey, we actually remembered his name this time.
Yeah, we remembered it this time. But yeah, I don't think I would have been trying to climb down there to find it out. I'd have been radioing in saying, "Hey, I think we just had a jumper," and then let a search and rescue team go down there. But that was actually officially entered into the maintenance log, and we get that supervisor's handwritten note. So the footprints on the stone wall, obviously the footprints weren't in the stone. It was probably mud or dampness or something, but the footprints left on the stone, and nothing on the slope below it.
So I've been up to Blue Ridge Parkway many, many times. There are some sheer cliffs up around there.
I've only driven through it. I haven't like hung out in there. I've only driven through the Blue Ridge Parkway.
Yeah, there's some steep mountains and drop offs, and
Lone Queen's got a very good point.
very well it could have been sitting right there looking at him, and he didn't even
Yeah.
know it. So I said, I don't know if I'd have climbed over that.
No
I mean,
kidding.
There it doesn't really say how long it took him to get from where he was at to where it jumped off at. If it was seconds, then that's a very, very good possibility that it was still just standing there looking at him.
Well, dude, the one my Uncle Buddy saw out his basement sliding glass window, just like 20 feet off of that porch deck, that cliff face slopes down to the Niagara River Valley, and it was steeper than. Yeah, it was steeper than the one that was next to my cabin. I mean, it was like a 70-degree angle. You could have slid down it. You would have got hurt. And Uncle Buddy ran out there, and he said it was still enough light to see. He looked down, and it was going down the side of that bluff, grabbing shrubs and little scrub trees and using those to slow it down. He said when it hit the valley floor, it hit the floor and ran. Didn't ever slow down. He said it went down the side of that bluff like a mountain goat, never slowed down.
Well, think about how many reports we've talked about where people talk about them running across the road and then running up an incline like that and never breaking stride.
Nick's got a good point. I wonder how many maintenance people or utility people go missing. Well, when I first got out of the Army, a buddy of mine, I was in the Army. It was right after I got married. He called me just out of the blue, and it was real crappy phone connection. And I said, "What's going on, Richie?" And he said, "You'll never guess where I'm at." I said, "Where?" He goes, "I'm in a cabin north of the Arctic Circle." I'm like, "What are you doing up there?" He said, "I got a job working the pipeline." He says, I work security. He says, "And they've always got openings." He said, "They pay," and then this was back in the early 90s. He said, "They pay real good." He said, "I could get you on, you probably make $200 a year and only work 6 months out of the year." And that $200,000 in the early 90s was a lot of money. Of course, Annette was like, "Nope, I'm not moving to Alaska, not happening." And we just got married, so she wasn't all about me going up there and living for 6 months, then coming back for 6 months. So I had to pass on the job. I'm like, "Why are the openings up there?" He goes, "Well, a lot of guys quit, and then some go missing." I said, "What do you think's getting them?" He says, "Probably polar bears." That makes sense, but that's what they did. Was his security unit? That's what they did, was patrolled the Alaskan pipeline, and he had like 100-mile stretch he was responsible for. He said, "I need a new partner." He says, "And I thought of you immediately." I'm like, "If I go up there with you, I'm going to get in a lot of trouble," just like I did when we were in the Army. But it's probably retrospect. It was probably a good thing I didn't take that, because I might have got ate by a bear.
This wasn't the one that you sat down at the table with after the big brawl with your shirt ripped open and bloody lips.
That would be him.
There you go.
Same guy.
Yeah, you would have gotten in some trouble.
Yeah, him and I probably would have been in a lot of trouble. But yeah, and that was like, "No, we're not moving to Alaska, and you're not going up there for 6 months." So. And I get it. I mean, we'd only been married like 6 months at the time.
Wonder if that job's still open.
From what I understand, it's constantly open. They require two things. They require prior experience in either law enforcement or military, and you've got to be a good shot.
I just so happen to qualify with both of those.
It would be an interesting job to have.
Yeah, just for the research standpoint.
No kidding. Take a lot of camera equipment with you. And try not to get ate by a bear. But yeah, this is another great one. I mean, this is a great story. That thing standing there completely not moving. That's like that again. That's predatory behavior. It was listening for something. It was probably on a hunt, waiting for the sound of something moving as the sun was coming up.
Yeah.
Waiting to get a bearing on something and then go down after it.
That would be a very good lookout.
Yeah.
know.
I mean, because the sun coming up, you're going to have turkeys waking up. You're going to have deer moving around.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that would be a great vantage point to listen for whatever it was hunting that morning. And it didn't step off until he started getting closer.
It's like, dude, you're messing up my hunting. Get out of here.
Yeah. Shut up, moron.
You ever been hunting before? Jeez. I'm out of here.
I tell you, sitting in a deer stand, you learn a couple of things. One, it's important to be quiet. And two, deer can hear a little Debbie snack wrapper for a mile away.
You hear them muscles in your neck creak too.
Yeah. But clearly, that weren't no bear. If a bear had stepped off that like that, that bear would have been splat down at the bottom.
Or a person. Because the person would have had to went over like he did, scramble over, holding on the roots and everything.
Hillary said, my stepdad was a welder on the Alaskan pipeline. He said all there was to do was work, make money, but no place to spend it. So he sent it all home. Ain't nothing wrong with that.
See, all I need's a...
Vincent says, yeah, there's a lot of predators that hunt right at sunset or sunrise. It's the best time to do it because the animals are the least active they're going to be. Other than when they're bedded down, when it makes them very hard to find. But when they're first waking up and starting to move around, they're going to be much easier to catch than in the middle of the day when they're more alert and fed and moving around. Yeah, that makes sense. Those twilight hours where the sun's either coming up or going down. Perfect hunting time.
Well, I mean, we know that too because that's when.
Yeah, even the deer like those little Debbie Christmas trees. Everybody does. But that wrapper crackling will give your position away. So I quit taking them. I started taking things with peelings instead of wrappers, like apples and oranges and bananas. But the way it stepped off that wall with no fear. I mean, if that had been a person, you would at least think that stepping off a wall would make them have reason to pause. But just stepping off that wall and vanishing, that's something that's confident in its surroundings.
If it was a person, you'd have probably heard the Goofy yell that,
or ow, Jesus, oh crap, Jesus Christ, oh.
Yeah, that too.
Lord help me. But if it'd been a person, there'd have been a body at the bottom of that cliff too.
And you would have heard branches snapping because it would have been rolling.
Yeah.
Down.
You'd heard all heck breaking loose as if it had been a person dropping off there. But again, I think that's another very credible story.
Yeah.
And it's awesome that you're familiar with that area because those woods up there, those are thick enough that something like that could just vanish.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's like, I've told you about where I went and did my tracking training up in Pisgah, which is that same mountain range. And there's some of them places you get 2 feet off the trail in the woods and it's like you're in a different world. You turn back around and look and you can't even see where you just 5 feet back from where you just came.
But that's kind of like the Mark Twain. I mean, you saw places in the Twain that you step off the trail, you get more than 3 or 4 steps. You better hope you remember the way you walked in.
Oh yeah. Miss Lene said we got 15 minutes.
All right. Well, actually, we got about 10. But 15 minutes till the very top. We have to stop at about 5 till. So we're not going to get started on segment 3 quite yet. We're going to go ahead and talk about this one for a couple minutes. Folks, you guys got any comments or questions about this one? Because, like I said, I think this one's pretty dang interesting. I mean, that thing felt like it wasn't worried at all about that drop-off. And to me, again, like you said, I'm not good with heights. That would have been a butt-puckering moment for me standing on the edge of that, let alone stepping off of it.
Oh, yeah.
And I wouldn't have been stepping off of it without freaking rappelling gear.
Well, and, like I said, there's just, I don't see, I mean, I get it. He thought it was somebody. But, the first part of the story, he's like making these connections where this is not a person. But yet he's still yelling for it, and
the rational part of his brain's got to be going, that's got to be a dude.
Yeah.
Even if he's a big son of a gun, that's got to be a guy.
I think he had he was having a
momentary disconnect there.
Yeah, he was having a paradigm shift and a come apart at the same time, because his brain just
you can't tell me if you walked into your kitchen right now and there was a Bigfoot leaned over raiding your refrigerator, your first words out of your mouth wouldn't be, sir, can I help you?
Well, me, I'd be like, hey, leave my beer alone.
That's my beer. You want beer, you go get your own at the store.
You can have anything else in there, you just leave my beer alone.
Miss Lenny says, do you think it could have been paranormal, maybe a spirit or a ghost? That's a great question. It stepped off, made no noise, and disappeared without a trace. So,
but it left footprints, so that's not disappearing.
It did leave footprints, so
I'd say that probably rules out. I mean, me, you know how I am as far as paranormal stuff go. I would think that rules out that.
Arlen says, I remember in Lakeview, man, the Bigfoot jumped off the back of that drop off right into the water.
That was inspired by some of the stuff Uncle Buddy told you, though, wasn't it?
Yes, it sure was. A lot of Lakeview Man was inspired by stuff Uncle Buddy told me. But now you've been to most of those places I wrote about in Lakeview Man.
Mm-hmm. Sure have.
And if anything, I kind of underestimated how creepy some of those places are.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, some of the, like, I knew going into LBL that it was going to be a creepy place, but it was still off the charts more creepier than I was even expecting it to be.
Oh, yeah.
So, some of these places, even like, when we were on the way to going to Combs Ferry that night, you were like, this is different than Joe Ball. This is going to be a lot more. Even with you saying that, and even you saying it, when me, you, and Noah stepped off that boat, you were like, ooh, I might have underestimated this touch.
Yeah. Even I hadn't been in there. That was the first time I'd set foot in Combs Ferry. And as soon as the boat started backing off and we heard rocks moving through the trees, I was like,
what are we doing?
Yeah, I hope they hurry.
And I'm going to tell you, that was, I don't get scared of a lot, and I wasn't scared that night, but I was unnerved. Let's just put it that way.
I was questioning whether or not to just call Richard back and say to hell with this, to be honest.
When the sound of Richard's boat faded out and you couldn't hear anything other than the other sounds we were hearing, and you're standing there and it's like just, I mean, pitch black, and I mean the darkest dark you can think about being
and humid and hot.
Yeah, and it's just like,
and you didn't dare turn on the headlamps because you'd just be swarmed with freaking bugs. They were thick.
Oh yeah, we definitely got our protein intake for the night every time.
That's a fact. I must have breathed in 10 pounds of bugs that night. Every breath I took, I was spitting bugs out. Hi, Dorothy. Yeah, Combs Ferry was one of those places that I expected it to be creepy. But, looking at it on a map and looking at it with binoculars from across the cove, it does not prepare you for being just three of you alone, even though we were armed, completely alone with no way of escape in the dead of night until Richard got back with Wyatt and Steve and then Jenkins and Estrella came over.
Well, think about it under these terms. Now we know that technically we could have walked out of there or ran out of there, but we didn't.
We know that now.
That's what I'm saying. But we did. But even knowing that, still, from where we got dropped off to where we could actually walk.
We were
out
easily a mile through rough terrain just to get to the gate
that we had never been on before.
Right.
And it wasn't like that was, I mean, yes, there was a trail, but it was not a trail that had been maintained since the early 80s.
Right. Northwood says, do you think Bigfoot just eats the bugs or maybe have a natural repellent?
I think that smell might be a natural repellent.
It could be, yeah. Or that thick skin oil.
Yeah. Or a mixture of both.
Yeah. The Native Americans have lots of different natural bug repellents, so there's no reason to think Bigfoot wouldn't be just the same. That's a great question, Northwoods. Let's see. Windler says, can you recall the episode number for Combs Ferry video or approximately when it aired?
Yes. Well, it was below 403.
It was definitely below 403.
That's about close number-wise as I could get you.
We went in.
It was July.
Was it July of 24 or July of 23? It was July of 23. Because it was January of 24 when me, you, and Doc went out.
Yep, you're right. Yeah, so it was.
No, I'm sorry. It was January of 25. So that would have been July of 24. Okay, I got my years off. I forgot it's 26 now.
Because it was.
So it would have been sometime after July of 24 when that Combs Ferry episode aired.
November of 23 when me, you, and Noah were in. We found the hunting line.
Right. Miss Lene's got a great question. Do you guys think you had enough firepower if they would have attacked? No, not even a little bit. Only thing we carried were pistols, and I will not make that mistake again. Definitely will not be making that mistake again.
I had my SOCOM in the truck across the lake.
We didn't take long guns because I thought it would be a bad idea. I didn't know how Missouri Department of Conservation would react if we got caught in there. But this next time, see if I can pull this thing off here. Well, I'll just raise it up a little bit. Next time, I picked this up. So I got my whisper pickle from Sigwo. That is definitely going to be going with me. So yeah, the Missouri tree trout. That's when that happened.
Yep, Missouri tree trout and
Roxanne says, how many do you think were around you at Combs Ferry? Well, when Richard came in and picked up me, Robbie, and Noah, we were standing, about knee deep in the water?
I don't say it was knee deep. It was.
We were in the water.
We were in the water, but I don't think we were.
With our pistols drawn pointed into the trees. When Richard came in and we all three climbed out, when Richard backed us out into the channel and we lit that up with a spotlight, I would estimate there were at least a dozen sets of eye shine in that tree, in those trees right where we'd just been.
K Bowers, yeah, that's what I'm moving to is 300 blackout.
Yeah,
because Doc and I were doing some ballistics talk on it, and basically a regular 300 blackout is like shooting an AK, which is 5 by 7.62.
Yeah, Robbie, it is time to make a quick commercial break. All right, folks, we're going to take a quick pause for the cause. You guys can refill your coffee or stretch your legs, walk the dog, whatever you guys need to do. We will be back in just a few minutes. Thank you, guys. We will be right back.
Hey everybody, this is Kerry Pocket Doc Davis from Dark Angel Medical, and you are listening to DA Ex Machina with DA Roberts. You may recognize me or some of my products from Dark Angel Medical in some of the Apex Predator, Lakeview Man, and Wild Hunt books, and you can get those products at www.darkangelmedical.com, along with training classes on how to use those products and save a life. Shoot us an email at info@darkangelmedical.com and be the difference.
The new book, How to Research a Haunted House by paranormal investigator Margie Kay and professional researcher Violet Wisdom, is now available from Unex Media. This one-of-a-kind book explains how to do research on a house with uncommon methods and resources used by historic home researchers, and how to determine who may be doing the haunting and why. How to Research a Haunted House can be used by homeowners, renters, investors, and it should be in the library of all professional paranormal investigators. Get this unique book at unexmedia.com or amazon.com. That's unexmedia.com or amazon.com. In a world where monsters still walk the earth, one author dares to face them. From the brutal cryptid horror of the Apex Predator series to the Ozark legends that stalk the night in Lakeview Man, from the elite warriors of codename Wild Hunt to the relentless investigations of the Nightmare Hunter and the frontier terror of Dark Frontiers. When the Dead Rise, the Ragnarok Rising saga unleashes pure zombie apocalypse fury. And across the stars, war rages in the Lost Legion and Man's Marauders. And in the realm of myth and steel, the world of Vanguard calls to those born for legend. Cryptids, zombies, sci-fi warfare, epic fantasy. This is the universe of D.A. Roberts.
And we are back, folks. Thank you guys for sticking with us. Robbie, you want to jump right back into your thought there?
Yep. So, okay, basically what Doc and I were talking about is a 300 is basically a 30 cal. And so if you're shooting just non-sub 30 cal out of a regular barrel, it's like shooting an AK. Roughly the same ballistics as an AK-47. When you go to subsonic ammo and you put a can on it, you're basically, it's at Doc's wording, it's like shooting a Buick downrange. That's how much it changes the velocity and the kinetic energy, the force transfer and all that. So, yeah, I wholeheartedly believe a 300 blackout will do what you need it to do.
And it again, what we've said before, we don't really want to shoot one. The only way we're gonna is in self-defense. But we've already talked about, from having both Doc and Steve opinions, as well as other people that have worked in the medical field, about the best places to hit one. So, you know, assuming the adrenaline drop does not make me miss completely, I'm going to be aiming for some very specific parts on the anatomy if I've got to shoot one, and that's not going to be center mass.
No. And like he said, we're not planning on shooting one, but if we go out, we're going out to make sure we can come back.
Right.
And if we get in one of these situations like this hunter that got Lawrence tailored by one, you know, a couple weeks ago, we read that story last week. Anyway, whenever it was, you know, I want to have the.
There might be something similar to that tonight too. Just saying.
That's what kind of I kind of used that as an example because.
Yeah, well, that old boy got knocked cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Wait till you read this one. This one takes a whole new meaning to sucker punch.
So, but yes.
Jeremy Lee says shoot low. Hey, there's a lot of big arteries in the pelvic girdle.
Oh, did you say range?
PW, yes, actually it is in certain states. It's illegal in Florida and Washington State, I know for sure. There are several other states that have laws on the books, so you're not allowed to shoot one. But those laws go out the books in cases of self-defense. There's nothing, you can even shoot an endangered animal if it's to save your life or the life of somebody else. Yeah, there's going to be an inquiry, but odds are very good you're still going to get away with it. It's kind of like anybody that's read Devil of the Absarokas. The hunting guide Patrick Akiba, when they come across that grizzly bear, he's like, "Look, I'm not even going to shoot this thing to put it out of its misery until I call back and talk to a warden, because that's what it is. I mean, that's how it is. That's a protected species." But there are circumstances where you can still shoot protected species, but it's got to be a life-saving moment. But then you've got states like Oklahoma who went the other direction entirely. State of Oklahoma is offering, I believe was it 3 million, Robbie, or 2 million? I think it's 3.
I think it was 3 because I remember 3 was part of the number. So
yeah, $3 million bounty. There's a $3 million bounty on one in the state of Oklahoma, but you got to bring it in alive. And that's the tricky part. Because how would you even know how to dose an unknown animal? Now, I would start baseline with something that would knock out a gorilla, but if it's that much bigger and stronger than a gorilla, that might just make it groggy. And have you seen that movie, the movie Tommy Boy, Robbie? Mm-hmm. You remember that deer came to in the back seat? Can you imagine if that was 1,000 pounds of pissed off primate?
Well, we know that a station wagon will knock it out for a little while.
Harry and Anderson's.
Well, what was I say? Yeah, you're taking the Nolan from Orca approach. Well, if the whale is twice the size of the shark, we'll use twice the amount. That's good math.
Yeah. We'll start with enough to trank a rhino and kind of dial it down from there. But yeah, I wouldn't want to try to bring one in alive. I don't want to bring one in at all. That is not my goal. But I certainly wouldn't want to try to bring one in alive. If we were to mount an expedition, let's say me and Robbie and Doc were sponsored by, say, just grabbing a place that would likely sponsor something like that. Let's say the billionaire that owns Bass Pro. Let's say he wrote us a check and said, "Go bring me a Bigfoot." We would have to hire probably somebody that worked for like someplace like the San Diego Zoo or one of the big zoos in the country, and say, "Look." Probably a primatologist as well. We'd have to hire one of each to say, "Okay, this is what we're possibly up against. We don't know how to dose it." And even then they would just be making guesses based on other animals. Miss Linnea, I love that movie. Fat guy in a little coat. That was a funny movie.
Don't do it. Don't do it. Tons of fun.
I love that movie.
Him's afraid to get out of the car. Him's just a little guy.
All right, let's get off the movie quotes. We're going to derail it. All right. But if you think the silent watcher on an overlook wall was unsettling, our next case takes us north to a remote logging road in Alberta where something didn't just watch a truck, it ran alongside it at highway speed. Robbie, you want to take this one?
Yep. Sorry, I had to plug my phone up.
I'm sorry. It's all right. Do I need to stall?
No, I got it.
All right.
That's why I was ready to start right at the second you said start.
All righty.
All right. The Alberta Logging Road Pursuit from 2001, documented by the RCMP, which stands for the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. Old Dudley Do-Right himself.
Here I come to save the day.
That's Mighty Mouse, but
no,
close enough.
Close enough. Oh, it's almost the same voice.
Yeah.
Hello, Nell.
Yep. Polly Purebred, or Polly Pureheart, excuse me.
No, that was on Underdog. Sweet Polly Purebred was on Underdog.
See, we're mixing all these.
Go, Gophers. Watch them go. Sorry.
Northern Alberta is a place where the wilderness doesn't just surround you, it swallows you. The logging roads stretch for miles through dense spruce and pine, twisting through country where radio signals die and the nearest help is hours away. It was late October of 2001 when two loggers, Mark and Dylan, finished their shift at a remote cut block and started the long drive back toward camp. The sun had already dipped below the tree line, leaving the sky a deep, bruised purple. Their old Ford pickup rattled along the gravel road, headlights cutting a narrow tunnel through the dark. They weren't talking much because they were just tired and hungry and ready to get back. About 10 minutes into the drive, Dylan noticed something in his side mirror, a shape, low to the ground, moving fast. He leaned forward and squinting. Hey, Mark, you seeing that? Mark glanced over. That's probably a wolf. But wolves don't run like that, and they don't keep pace with a truck doing 30 miles an hour. The shape closed the distance. Fast. Too fast. Dylan's voice tightened. Speed up.
The dog's got great timing.
Yeah. That's Bucky for you. Or excuse me, that was Cap. Never mind. Sorry. I'll be here all day. Mark pressed the gas. The truck climbed to 35, then 40. Gravel spit out behind them. The engine whined. The shape kept pace. Now it was close enough that the headlights caught flashes of movement, long strides, upright posture, something big weaving in between the trees just off the road. Dylan rolled down his window, trying to get a better, real smart idea, rolled down his window trying to get a better look. Cold air blasted in. The forest rushed past in a blur. That's when he heard it. Footfalls, heavy, rhythmic, pounding the ground in perfect sync with the truck's speed. He shouted, "It's on my side!" Mark didn't look. He kept his eyes locked on the road, knuckles white on the steering wheel. The thing moved closer, close enough that Dylan could hear its breathing. Deep, powerful exhales that didn't sound like any animal he'd ever heard. Then it stepped out of the tree line. For a split second, the headlights caught it. A massive, upright figure covered in dark hair, arms swinging low, legs eating up the ground in long, effortless strides. Its head turned towards the truck, eyes reflecting pale yellow in the light. Dylan screamed, "Go! Go!" Mark floored it. Truck fishtailed, gravel spraying in all directions. The engine roared as they hit 45, then 50. The thing didn't fall behind. It surged forward. And then, bam! Something slammed into the passenger side door, hard enough to rock the entire truck. Dylan was thrown sideways, shoulder hitting the window. Mark fought the wheel, trying to keep from sliding into a ditch. Another impact, lower this time. A heavy, deliberate strike. Truck lurched. Dylan yelled, "It's hitting us! It's hitting us in the damn truck!" Mark didn't answer. He couldn't. His jaw was clenched so tight he couldn't speak. He pushed the truck to 55, then 60. Finally, the impact stopped. The footfalls faded, and the breathing vanished. The shape fell back in the trees and disappeared into the darkness. They didn't slow down for 10 miles. When they reached camp, both men jumped out and ran to the passenger side of the truck. There were 2 dents in the door, one the size of a fist, the other the size of a shoulder, both higher than any human could reach without climbing. The camp foreman made them file an incident report. The RCMP photographed the damage. Official cause was listed as undetermined wildlife impact. But Mark and Dylan knew better. Whatever hit the truck wasn't a bear, and it wasn't a moose, wasn't anything that should have been able to run at highway speed through a dense forest. It was something else, something that wanted them off the road, something that wasn't afraid to make contact. And the worst part, it kept up with them for miles.
Okay, I got one question about this. Okay, if there were 2 dents in the door, one the size of a fist, one side of a shoulder, and they were in the truck, how could they be higher than any human could reach without climbing?
Yeah, I kind of wondered that myself.
Okay, that part of the narration makes no sense.
Because, I mean, unless they were in a monster truck.
Right.
They said they were just in an old Ford pickup, so I mean,
so
middle of the door is going to be what, hip height?
Yeah, about that. So if it hit the side of the door, it wasn't that high off the ground. I don't know if that's an error in the report or if they meant that, it hit high up on the door. I don't know.
See, folks,
But
we don't
that
just
doesn't make
read all
sense.
these stories and take them at face value. We actually kind of, if there's something strange and something that doesn't sit right, we'll
we're
call
gonna
it
point
out.
it out.
Because when I read that, I was thinking the exact same thing. I was like, well, were they in big, pardon the pun, Bigfoot?
Yeah, the monster truck.
Monster truck? Now, if they were
The
saying
rest of the story, everything lines up, but that one detail kind of sticks out.
if they were meaning it as there was no way a human could have run that fast and matched that speed and caused that type of damage, yeah, but too high for any human unless they were climbing. Like I said, even if the truck is a raised up 4-wheel drive, you're still looking at. I mean, you stood next to my truck. My truck's a 4-wheel drive.
Yeah, and I could hit pretty high on that door without climbing.
Yeah, I mean, I could punch center of the window with my fist. Not punching up, just punching normal, and my shoulder's going to hit right below.
And that truck couldn't have set any higher than yours, even with a 4-wheel drive. So, okay, one detail in that seems off, but the rest of the story is pretty compelling, especially if the RCMP did photograph it and document it.
So, did you already give away our winners?
I gave away one batch. We'll do another here in a little bit.
I just saw.
Yeah, that was me. I gave away one batch. I didn't even announce it. I just did it.
Did I miss some?
Yeah, I just did one without even announcing it. Figured, what the heck. So, okay, this said this was the dents were photographed by the RCMP. The employer filed an incident report. The dents measured shoulder height for a 7 to 8 foot creature. So, if the dents measured that high, how high off the ground was that dang truck? Unless it was a logging truck.
But
Where else would the employer?
But even if it was a logging truck, they're still. I mean,
Well, if it was like a flatbed to haul logs on, that would set up pretty high. I mean, you got to climb up into the cab of one of those.
Yeah, but it had to be something like that then.
Yeah.
But with them talking about it, fishtail and stuff like that, you get a big truck like that, fishtail, it is really hard to bring that back under control. So I guess in my mind, I'm thinking like you're thinking. I'm just thinking of an old, F-100, F-150, something like that. But maybe
it just says Ford pickup, but it might have been if these guys were loggers.
It could have been like
a
cab over, flatbed, something like that.
Yeah, or like an F-350 or an F-450. That's a pretty good size truck.
Yeah, that's the only thing that I can say make sense is if it's one of those.
Okay, considering it just says Ford pickup, I'm going to go out on a limb and guess it was probably an F-350 or an F-450, probably some big flatbed for going out and hauling logs and cutting trees, because these guys were clearly working on a remote cut. It says they worked on a remote cut block, so it was some sort of logging vehicle. So I don't think it was just like your standard F-150.
Yeah.
So okay, we can kind of go with that then, as accepting it being higher off the ground than a standard pickup.
Yeah, I mean that's the only thing that makes it make sense.
If he had his window down looking out, how did he not see it hit the door?
Well, in that too will kind of make it. You have to look at it and say it's one of those, because that would be the only way he wouldn't have been able to see it, is if he was in one of those big cab overs. He was up that high off the ground.
Right. Okay, so one of two things. This was a much bigger truck than we're thinking, and it set up like maybe even like a Ford F-650, one of the super monster duties that because these guys were clearly loggers. So it's either that or there's some BS going on here. Doc's throwing the flag.
I don't remember what year those 650s came out when they started using those, but 2001, I would say that something like that was probably. I know the 450s were out
Oh yeah.
that time frame, because those came out in early to mid 90s, I believe.
If I was running a logging crew, I wouldn't run it in an F-150.
No, I mean that'd be your foreman truck. The truck foreman
Yeah.
drive from site to site, and
Yeah, but these guys were out on a cut line.
yeah, so that's probably what it was. It was probably something like that. They were, and I would say they probably didn't have a load, because if they had a load and they got the fishtailing, I don't think he would have been able to correct it back into keeping it out of the ditch, because you get that
Right.
much weight behind you slinging you one way. There's no way that truck's going to be able to swing it back around, because that
So-
weight, when that weight gets out to the side, it's going to carry it on. They
Yeah.
probably would have rolled over.
There's generally not much recovering once you put one of those big monsters into a slide. I don't know. All right, folks, we're gonna leave this one completely up to y'all out there. You know, y'all in the audience listening tonight. What do you guys think? Do you think that it makes logical sense that this was a much bigger truck, and therefore that's why the hits were listed as being that high off the ground? Or is this one kind of pegging your BS meter? So I'm kind of stuck in the middle on that one. I want to believe the story because most of the details sound very credible, but those details about the truck are just sticking in my head.
Let's see. The Ford F-650, along with the 750, was introduced in 2000.
That's a big truck.
So, well, if it was one of those and it was dented, that's probably why, because that would have it would have had to be brand hammer new, and that's probably why the supervisor made him file a report.
Because if it's an old beat up truck, he wouldn't have given a crap.
Which, if it was one of those, it couldn't have been an old beat up truck, because the production launch was 2000, and this was 2001, so that thing had to be brand hammer new. And
so it's possible it was an F-650.
yeah, because the 650 and the 750 came out in 2000.
Well, before then, they still made the big 1-tons.
Yeah.
I mean, my dad had a big old Ford 1-ton. We used to haul wood when we cut wood. Had that big honking Ford 460 in it. Man, that was a beast of an engine.
Because
Dr. Sharp, yeah, he says bigger truck matches the rest of the details. I think I'm gonna have to kind of side with that.
yeah, I think we got to infer that that's what they were driving. They wasn't just driving a regular
PW
truck.
says, I say it's BS, but believable BS like fishing tails. Again, that's 100% possible. Those details red flag with me, and as a cop, the details matter. But we do have a possible explanation for why those details seem weird. It could have just been a much bigger truck than they gave credit, because they said pickup. That defines a lot of vehicles. There's a lot of classifications of pickup, of the word pickup. I mean, that encompasses everything from a little Ford Courier that they don't even make anymore, or a little S10, all the way up to these big monster duty trucks. They're still technically all pickups. So I'm gonna say on this one, believable but possibly BS. So
I'm gonna send a picture in the co-host chat for you.
okay, I'm gonna have to wade through it because I've got like 40 messages.
It's in the co-host chat.
That's a big old truck.
That's the commercial F-650.
Okay, let me bring that up, and then I will show everybody. So let me grab that real quick. It's just gonna take a second. All right. I got to share it. Yeah, that with a flat logging bed on it, that'd be a big old rascal, and that does set up pretty dang high.
So I would say it would have had to been something like that.
Their one is with kind of a flatbed on it.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a big old truck. So if it was one of those, or like one of the right downsize from that, yeah, this story makes sense. But if it was just a regular size pickup, it doesn't really add up. So I will leave this one for you guys to decide for yourself whether or not you choose to believe it's true or not. Let's just say that this one gave me some reasons to be skeptical, but we've also found a possible explanation for that. So again, what you guys think matters just as much as what we think. So whatever you guys think. Robert Go says, long nose Pete, I can think for Transformers. Yeah, that'd be a big old truck, and it would certainly be high enough off the ground. But it didn't say semi, it said pickup. Unfortunately.
Yeah, most of us know what's going to happen if the semi starts fishtailing like that.
Yeah, that's going off the edge. If you fishtail it at all. But the slamming into it, that says that's aggressive. That's an aggressive hit. It certainly wasn't scared. It sounded like it was pissed off.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of with some of them. You know, there's some parts of the story that's just like, but there are some parts that are like, okay, that's plausible.
Yeah.
So
I'm going to say this story is plausible, but kind of leave it at that. But what we can tell one thing from it, it definitely wasn't a bear. Bears,
no.
If a bear was keeping up at all, it would have been on all fours. So it wouldn't have been hitting the side of the truck. An elk or a moose, maybe. Well, definitely a moose get violent enough, but didn't say anything about antler or hoof damage. So, anything that's chasing a truck at 30 to 40 miles an hour through a dense forest, that's something you want to, give it some wide berth and lots of respect.
And the power it would take to shift a truck that size sideways.
It'd take a tremendous amount of force. It would definitely take a tremendous amount of force.
You hit a truck like that, paralleling it with a Honda Civic, the Honda Civic's going to bounce off the other way, and that truck's not even going to really know it was even hit.
That's a fact. And a truck that big would use, Honda Civic as a speed bump, or a Prius. Thump, thump.
So you have to have something with some serious muscle behind it to hit the truck hard enough to shift it sideways.
Yeah.
We've read encounters where vehicles have been shifted, but they've been, smaller, regular size vehicles. And we're taking a little bit of leeway, assuming that's what it was, because it's not clearly defined that's what it was, but based on what their job, what they were doing, and just some things that we were inferring, we're just assuming that that's what it was.
Right. Angela's got a good point. I'm right there with her. Why would you roll your window down?
I mean, I can understand if the impacts happened and they hadn't seen anything, rolling the window down to see what's going on, but you've already seen this thing pacing you. You've already accelerated a time or two, and it's kept on going. I can understand if nothing had been seen at that point when the impact's made rolling the window down, but you already know that this thing is out there and it's following you. That's not a really. I mean, I know this is the pot calling the kettle black. It's not really a smart thing to do from the guy who,
Roxanne's calling us out.
I just said this is the pot calling the kettle black, Roxanne.
She's straight up calling us out. Robbie'd be leaning out the window trying to see it.
Slow down, Doc. Slow down. Nope.
Noah Chive says the creature could have been running on all fours, so it impacted a lower stance.
Well,
And
it
then
kinda
Kim
sound-
Ward says, I call BS because any truck bigger than 350 at 35 miles an hour is not going to spin and sling rocks.
That's a good point.
There are some holes in this story. So, again, folks, take it with a grain of salt and decide for yourself what you want to believe about that story.
It kind of sounded like when he was first described, it kind of sounded like it because he said it was running low to the ground. So I kind of assumed that it was running on all fours. But then there's a part where it says it was running, pacing him, and I think it said upright. So
Yeah, it was a RCMP report and apparently credible enough that they took photos.
well, I mean, any kind of accident report, they're going to take photos of it. So that's just that. I'm not a law enforcement officer in Canada by no means, but I would assume that they do things the same way we do here, like,
or at least very similar.
Yeah, anytime somebody reports something like that, you're going to take photos of it because we have something called filing false police report, false information to police officer, things like that. Somebody files a report, and you take pictures of it, and all of a sudden it comes back later that they was lying.
They hit a tree and we're trying to cover it up.
Yeah, you've got documented evidence that they came in and filed a report, for insurance fraud and things like that. So I would assume that's probably, regardless of whether they believed what the guy said did it or not, they did that. So they had documentation because the insurance company's going to come to them and say, I mean,
all right, tell me what happened.
Yeah.
You know what? I think I'm going to give away the other 5 memberships now.
Let's do it.
All right, here they go. They should be popping up anytime now. There we go.
Let's see. Michelle, God, it's moving so fast, I can't see it. Michelle, WCDP35, Lou 1P, Bloodwolf 4314, and Vamp Scatter. I think I
Nice.
got them all.
Awesome. Hey, what's up, Corey? Congrats to everybody that got one of the memberships.
So you're ready to segue into the next.
Absolutely.
All right. If you think being chased by something that can keep up with a truck is terrifying, our next case takes us to Maine, where a family camping near Moosehead Lake or Moose Shed Lake. Is that Moosehead?
Moosehead.
Yeah, I said Moosehead, then it looked like it was Moose Shed, so I changed it. But then I saw it again. I'm like,
Well, if you take the E out, you'd get Moo Shed. Well, I guess that was where Jeff works, at the Moo Shed.
yep. Moosehead Lake found themselves under a barrage of rocks. Sounds familiar. Thrown from the darkness by something they never saw. Segment 4 is coming up. DA?
This one's called the Moosehead Lake Rock Barrage. Happened in 1988, and this was documented through ranger incident logs and a campground complaint file. Moosehead Lake is the kind of place where people go to escape the world. The deep woods, cold water, miles of shoreline, where the only sounds are loons, wind, and the crackle of a campfire. In the summer of 1988, the Harrington family, mom, dad, and 2 kids, set up camp at a remote site on the lake's western edge. It was the kind of spot you had to hike to. No neighbors, no generators, just trees, water, and quiet. They spent the day fishing, swimming, and exploring the shoreline. By dusk, they were settled in around the fire, roasting marshmallows and telling stories. The kids went to bed first, crawling into the tent while the parents sat by the fire, enjoying the stillness. At around 10 p.m., the woods changed. The wind died down, insects stopped making noise, and the night went unnaturally quiet. Mrs. Harrington noticed it first. "Do you hear that?" she said. The husband listened. Nothing. No crickets, no frogs, no rustling leaves, just silence. He shrugged it off. Probably the temperature dropped, but she didn't look convinced. A few minutes later, something hit the picnic table. Dunk! A rock, about the size of a fist. It rolled off the table and landed near the fire. Mr. Harrington stood up, scanning the tree line with a flashlight. "Probably just kids messing around," he said. But there were no kids. No other campsites within a mile, and no trail access from that direction. Then another rock hit the table, harder this time. Thunk! Mrs. Harrington whispered, "Someone's out there." Her husband shouted, "Hey, knock it off!" In silence. Then a third rock came flying out of the darkness. This one hit the tent. The kids screamed. Mr. Harrington ran to the tent, unzipping it, checking on the kids. They were scared but unhurt. He told them to stay low and stay quiet. Then another rock hit the tent. Then another. Then another. A steady barrage. Not random, not clumsy, deliberate. Mrs. Harrington yelled, "Stop! We have children!" The woods didn't care. A rock the size of a grapefruit slammed into the ground beside the fire, scattering embers. Mr. Harrington stomped them out, his heart pounding in his chest. He grabbed the flashlight and shined it toward the tree line. That's when he saw them. Eyes. Two pale, reflective orbs staring back at him from behind a cluster of pines. Too high off the ground to be a person, too far apart to be a deer. The eyes blinked once, slowly. Then the shape behind them shifted. A massive silhouette stepped back into the darkness. Mr. Harrington shouted, "We're leaving!" They threw everything into their packs, half-burned marshmallows, sleeping bags, clothes still damp from the lake. The kids cried as the rocks kept coming, hitting the ground, the table, and the tent poles. One rock hit a tree trunk so hard it echoed like a gunshot. They grabbed their gear and started down the trail, flashlights shaking in their hands. The barrage didn't stop. Rocks hit the trees around them, bouncing off trunks and thudding into the dirt. Something was following them. Not close, not visible, but present. Every few seconds, a rock would arc out of the darkness and land just behind them, as if hurting them, pushing them, driving them away. When they reached the trailhead and the safety of their car, the rocks stopped, just like that. Silence returned. The woods went still again, as if nothing had happened. The next morning, they reported the incident to the ranger station. The ranger hiked out to the site and found dozens of rocks scattered around the campsite, deep impressions in the moss behind the tent, not boot prints, not boot prints at all, more like feet. No signs of human activity whatsoever, no bear tracks, and no evidence of any kids or pranksters. The ranger wrote in the log, "Unidentified individual or animal threw rocks at a campsite. No suspects." But the Harringtons knew what they saw. And when they heard what followed them, they knew what they saw, they knew what they heard, and they knew what followed them. Something in those woods didn't want them there, and it wasn't afraid to make that abundantly clear.
Unidentified animals throwing rocks.
Yeah, what animals throw rocks again?
Oh, moose, bear, squirrels, raccoons.
Those Greater Ozark meth raccoons again.
Yep. You got the meth raccoons and cocaine bears are out there throwing rocks at campers.
That's right. Wyatt says that's when you get the thermal out.
Because thermal don't lie.
That's right. Thermal don't lie. That is the quote of the day right there. Thermal don't lie. Lone Queen says definitely wanted them gone yesterday. That ain't no joke. It definitely wanted them out of that area.
Sounds kind of familiar, don't it, DA?
Yes, it do.
Get off our peninsula.
Yeah. We see you. Get the hell out. You know, it really didn't escalate until we passed the deer leg and the tree trout. Yep. They were there, and they were not afraid to let us know they were there. But it was after we passed that point when things started getting really kind of wild.
Chris said we got to add the pot-headed possum, or the pothead possum.
Pothead possum. He's too stoned to do anything.
Meth raccoon and cocaine bear. All
there
out having
go.
fun. Don't forget the fentanyl squirrel.
Yeah, there you go. That one's pretty nuts.
Yeah, that is.
That was a lot of rocks. I've heard, well, we had a bunch coming at us, but they were all small. I don't remember hearing any of them hit that sounded big.
I don't think so. I
remember we more heard them hitting tree branches than hitting the ground.
Yeah, a few of them hit the water, I think, but nothing that sounded right. Bigger than maybe the size of a pool ball or something like that. It's maybe the biggest.
I mean, I know we heard several thumps, but it wasn't anything like,
Yeah,
like
nothing
a
that sounded like
bowling
a
ball hitting the
gunshot
ground.
going off.
Right, right. Nothing that big, nothing that dramatic. But there was definitely evidence documented of this. The ranger logged at the campground filed a complaint. They found multiple wrecks at the with a campsite, deep impressions in the ground behind the tent, not human tracks, no sign of bears, and no other campers anywhere close to them. When I was a kid, we were little turds, and we would do crap like go sneak up onto the campsites and stuff. But I wouldn't have walked in the dark a mile through the woods just to do that.
That's a long way to walk to throw rocks at a campsite just for a few shits and giggles.
Right. And especially taking that walk in the dark because they'd have seen flashlights coming. So that was definitely territorial aggression. What do you think?
Yeah, that because as soon as they got to their car and it immediately stopped, which
Right.
every time that Johnny and I got paced out of there, once we hit other than that one time, once we hit that gate and got to the parking lot where our cars were, it stopped. So I think that was strictly territorial. You're too close. Get out.
Robbie, can you talk about that for a minute? I have to go to the bathroom. I'll be right back.
So let's see what it. Yeah, Long Queen says and I can't put the comments up because we don't have the co-hosts don't have that authority here. But Long Queen says, interesting that a rock apparently hit hardest on the tree near the people. Y'all think that was intentionally meant to be close, or that was just happened to unlucky or lucky? Either way, no, Hillary. I don't dance. I'm more of a lean on the bar type guy and hold the beer bottle in my hand and drink it. But yeah, I think this is definitely more credible than the last story we read. I think it's definitely territorial. What do y'all think? Yeah, Angela says surprised the site wasn't torn up. Yeah, I mean, because we've read encounters where they go back and tents have been torn apart. So maybe this was just a get out of my territory, and that's all it was. It wasn't. Maybe they packed up all their food and stuff with them, and there wasn't anything left that interested, or anything left of interest. They just wanted them gone. Give up with the dancing. I'm not dancing, y'all. Sorry. Yes, Clay. Counting myself, I've met several people who've had sightings here. So my first encounter, I had one roaring, and it sounded like heavy machinery throttling up. I was running towards it, looking for the machine that I heard. Yeah, well, we've read a couple of them that, and there's actually, I can't remember where it was recorded from, but we sent one recording in because it did sound so much like heavy machinery. We sent it in to somebody that did the analysis of it just to make sure that it was not mechanical. PW says, do I think this is more possible that they get more aggressive because there's a nursery nearby? That's a good point. That it could be, depending on what time of the year it was, and it could, for lack of a better term, pupping season, or birthing season, or whatever. I mean, that could be. They could have been too close to the little ones, which would drive aggression up.
Oh yeah. Same thing happens with bears. You get too close to the cubs, they get aggressive.
Yeah. Some of them were saying they were surprised that the campsite wasn't torn up, and I said, yeah, because we've read a couple of things like that, but maybe because you did read that they packed most everything up, so maybe they got all the interesting stuff. But if it was more along this, hey, you're too close to my kids, get out of here. That's all they cared about, was just getting them out of the area. Who knows?
Yeah. So this one I think is a legit story. Not only was it documented, but we've heard this kind of behavior before.
Yeah. That's just what I said just before you came back. I definitely think this one's a lot more credible than the one before, the one we read before it.
So I think we can safely rule a bear out on this. Not too many rock throwing bears.
No. I've seen bears that ride unicycles, but I ain't never seen a bear that throw a rock.
Sorry to get a little sleepy again. But rock throwing is one of the most consistent behaviors we've heard in some of these stories.
Don't make me start having to call you Jeff.
Oh, I'm not snoring, so
Well, that's true.
I'm good.
So, yeah, I would lean, because even if it was young ones around, stuff like that, that still lends to territorial behavior.
Right. But if you think rocks hitting a tent is terrifying, our next case takes us to Idaho, where a hunter wasn't just warned, he was hit hard enough to break bone. And Robbie, this was the one I was telling you about.
I was about to say, it sounds like the one you were just talking about. So you ready for me to get into segment 5?
Oh, absolutely.
Segment 5 is the Idaho elk hunter assault in 2013. Documented Clearwater County Sheriff's report, hospital intake notes, and SAR interview, which is search and rescue. The Clearwater National Forest in Idaho is one of those places where the wilderness feels endless. Steep ridges, dark timber, miles of country where sound disappears into the trees and daylight fades faster than it should. In October of 2013, a seasoned elk hunter, Daniel, headed into the backcountry alone. He'd hunted this area for years. He knew the ridges, the drainages, the game trails. He wasn't reckless. He wasn't inexperienced. He was the kind of hunter who respected the woods and understood the risk. He parked his truck before dawn, hiked in 3 miles, and set up on a ridge overlooking a narrow valley. The morning was cold, the air was sharp, and the forest quiet, except for the occasional bugle echoing through the timber. Around mid-morning, he heard something moving below him. Heavy steps, slow, deliberate. He thought it might be a bull elk working its way up the slope. He crouched behind a fallen log, steadying his rifle, waiting for the animal to step into view. But the sound just wasn't right. Elk move with a certain rhythm. 4 beats, uneven, hooves clicking on rocks. This was different. 2 beats, heavy, measured, almost purposeful. He listened, frowning. Whatever it was big, and it was coming up the hill towards him. He raised his rifle, scanning the trees. Nothing. The footsteps stopped, and the forest went still. Then a branch snapped behind him. He spun around, but there was nothing there. He turned back towards the slope, and that's when it hit him. A massive force slammed into his back, lifting him off of his feet and throwing him down slope. He tumbled through brush and rocks, rolling 20 to 30 feet before slamming into a fallen tree. His vision blurred and his ears rang. His shoulder burned with white-hot pain. He tried to push himself up and heard something moving above him. Heavy breathing, deep, powerful, not human. He froze. Whatever had hit him was standing just out of sight, just above the ridge. He could hear it shifting its weight, hear the brush moving under its feet. He whispered, "Oh God, oh God." The breathing grew louder, closer, slow, controlled exhalations, like something enormous was standing over him, deciding what to do next. He didn't dare move, didn't dare look, he didn't dare breathe. Then, as suddenly as it had come, the presence shifted and stepped away. Not crashing, not running, just walking. 2 heavy steps, then silence. Daniel lay there for nearly 10 minutes, shaking, waiting for the thing to return. When he finally forced himself to stand, the pain shot through his shoulder. His arm hung limp, and he realized he couldn't lift it. He staggered back up the slope, scanning the ridge for any sign of the attacker, but there was nothing. No animal, no person, no movement. But the ground told a different story. The brush where he'd been standing was crushed flat. The dirt showed a long slide mark where he'd been thrown. Branches were snapped at shoulder height, but there were no tracks. Not elk, not bear, not human. Just the disturbed earth and silence. He made the long, painful hike back to his truck, driving himself to the nearest hospital. X-rays showed a broken collarbone, deep bruising across his back and ribs. When the sheriff interviewed him, Daniel said the same thing every time. I didn't see it, but it wasn't a bear. It wasn't a person. It hit me like a truck. SAR volunteers hiked into the area the next day. They found the slide marks, broken brush, but no tracks, no sign of a large animal, no evidence of a fall, and no indication Daniel had tripped or slipped. The unofficial report listed the cause as unidentified large animal impact. But Daniel knew better. Something hit him, something big, something fast, and something silent. And whatever it was, it chose not to finish the job. I'd say he's pretty lucky too.
Yeah, that's a little more than that last dude. That last dude just got knocked down. This guy got his collarbone broken.
And speaking for somebody who's had their collarbone broken, that ain't a fun injury.
And this is backed up by sheriff's reports, hospital intake notes that confirmed a broken collarbone, the search and rescue interview, physical marks at the scene, but no tracks, oddly enough.
And they said there was no signs of him tripping, slipping, and falling.
Right.
So he got trode down that hill.
Yeah. So do you think it was a territorial thing? Do you think it just, it was its way of saying, get the heck out of here?
I don't know.
Because clearly it could have followed up and finished him off.
Yeah, but the way it kind of stood up there and paused, it was almost like it was deciding whether it was worth it or not to go down the hill and do it. It was like, kind of like it, should I, shouldn't I type thing.
Thanks, Miss Lene.
I
kind of get the feeling that this thing just wanted him gone.
Maybe, but and this is just me thinking this, I'm not playing devil's advocate, but it's just like if it just wanted him gone, it seemed like it had just thrown him down the hill and just went on about its business. I don't know that it was stood up there and waited around, unless it was just waiting to see if, like we were talking about with the last one, maybe it was just waiting to see if he was going to get up and come back up the hill, and it would have finished it then. I don't know. I just Somebody said it sounded like Bigfoot went people tipping.
Boondock Corey says, I saw a photo of an Alabama man who was slapped on the back by a juvenile behind his house. He was a big guy and said it felt like he got hit by a truck. That's kind of what that guy said.
Yeah.
There we go. Larry Berlin says, sounds like Jack Lambert took him out. Didn't he become a forest ranger after he retired?
He did something. I don't know if that's what it was, but he did something with National Forest Service.
I was pretty sure he became like a warden or a forest ranger.
You imagine Jack Lambert and a Bigfoot clashing with each other?
Ooh. Well, I'm going to say Jack would lose that, but
I'm going to say Bigfoot would have probably known he was in a fight.
He'd remember his name afterwards, probably.
He goes back to the other. You ain't gonna believe this. He was missing 2 of his front teeth, and that was the biggest, meanest, ugliest son or human I've ever messed with. He tried to bite me.
I found a hairless ape. You best leave alone. Nick Borrow says sounds almost like a mother defending her young. Possible. Or it might have just been, like a teenager just smacking the crap out of him and going, "What? What are you gonna do? What?"
Yeah, I mean, like, all these theories are very plausible, and who knows? I mean,
Right. Could be any of them. Could be none of them.
Yeah, we say that it sounds like it could be this, sounds like it could be that, because there's always one or two elements in all these things that kind of are the same. You may have 4 or 5 different elements in one that you don't have in another, but they each going to have something, and it's you just kind of piece this together and say, okay, well, this one sounds a little bit more like this. This one sounds a little bit more like that, but you don't. It's speculation at the best, anyway.
Absolutely. I mean, we're also trying to understand the mindset of a creature that we clearly don't understand. It might have been sitting up there just breathing, but in its head, it was laughing its butt off. We don't know.
Yeah. Be like, it could have been saying, "You see how far he slid? Boy, that's the best one I got this month." I mean,
he was breathing heavy because he turned around to one of his buddies and goes,
that may have been the Bigfoot equivalent of curling.
or he doesn't move and he stands still, and a couple other Bigfoot snuck up there and measured the distance with a vine, and then they start paying him in squirrel hides and rocks. Like, fine, you win. You got the most distance out of the hiker this time. Corey Colt says, "I want to make some THC brownies and put them out there for him." Oh man, that's all we need is a stoned Bigfoot with the munchies.
I remember, I think it was Genosqua 4.
Yeah.
Heath had them give that THC chocolate to that Bigfoot.
I'd forgotten about that.
As soon as I read that comment, that's the first thing popped in my mind. I'm like,
you better bring a whole case of Doritos
and Funyuns.
And Funyuns, yeah.
With chocolate milk.
Or orange soda.
Pork chops, yeah. Normal.
Yeah, the normal things you see in the back seat of a car.
Yeah.
Lone Queen's got a point. Says, I'm thinking the two guy impacted so hard didn't respond the way the creature expected. Maybe they were more controlled. The creature expected hysterics, threw off the attack. Or he was up there going, "Oops, I broke him."
Yeah, and there again, very plausible point. But who knows for sure what? It could have been any one of these, like DA said, or it could have been something that we have totally no clue about. Like we were, it's a joke, but maybe that is something that they do, toss hikers for distance or hunters.
Well, the big thing in New York now is people walking down the street getting randomly punched in the face. Maybe it's just an obnoxious teenager seeing who he can crack whenever they walk by on the trail. Whatever the reason, it certainly took its toll on that poor dude. Launched him down a hill and broke his collarbone. Now he's going to get that feeling every time it rains and to remember that encounter by.
Yep, 100%, and it ain't fun. I can still feel the knot or the bone fused back together.
I've never broken my collarbone, but I've broken several other bones, and believe me, I understand completely about that built-in barometer.
Yep. And it messes with your mobility.
Yeah, I would imagine. But Tyler, I don't think I want to see Bigfoot out there high enough to hunt ducks with a rake. No, I don't think that's a winning combination. I think that's bad all the way around. Start out by leaving Bigfoot a bunch of like gummy bears, and then about halfway through the feeding cycle, you start switching them to edibles. You captured Bigfoot because he's so damn stoned he couldn't leave. Karen says, do you think the collarbone broke from the hit or the impact or the fall? I think he broke it when he hit the tree, because that's when he said he felt that white hot pain. Oh, we're overdue for the commercial break, so we've got to take a quick commercial break to pay some bills. So we'll be right back.
The new book, How to Research a Haunted House by paranormal investigator Margie Kay and professional researcher Violet Wisdom, is now available from Unex Media. This one-of-a-kind book explains how to do research on a house with uncommon methods and resources used by historic home researchers, and how to determine who may be doing the haunting and why. How to Research a Haunted House can be used by homeowners, renters, investors, and it should be in the library of all professional paranormal investigators. Get this unique book at unxmedia.com or amazon.com. That's unxmedia.com or amazon.com. In a world where monsters still walk the earth, one author dares to face them. From the brutal cryptid horror of the Apex Predator series to the Ozark legends that stalk the night in Lakeview Man, from the elite warriors of codename Wild Hunt to the relentless investigations of the Nightmare Hunter and the frontier terror of Dark Frontiers. When the dead rise, the Ragnarok Rising saga unleashes pure zombie apocalypse fury. And across the stars, war rages in the Lost Legion and Man's Marauders. And in the realm of myth and steel, the world of Vanguard calls to those born for legend. Cryptids, zombies, sci-fi warfare, epic fantasy. This is the universe of D.A. Roberts.
Hey everybody, this is Kerry Pocket Davis from Dark Angel Medical, and you are listening to DA Ex Machina with D.A. Roberts. You may recognize me or some of my products from Dark Angel Medical in some of the Apex Predator, Lakeview Man, and Wild Hunt books, and you can get those products at www.darkangelmedical.com, along with training classes on how to use those products and save a life. Shoot us an email at info@darkangelmedical.com and be the difference.
And we are back, folks. Thank you guys for hanging with us through that commercial break, and we're going to jump right back into this. That's a pretty creepy one. I mean, that to me, was that territorial? Was it a warning? Was it testing him?
I mean, like we said, it could have been anything. I'm kind of on the fence between territorial and predation. But,
well, he said, he launched him like 30, 40 feet, and he said it felt like he got hit by a truck. But I'd be willing to bet it probably didn't hit him as hard as it could.
Oh, no. I think if it had hit him as hard as it could, he probably wouldn't have been telling the story, because it probably killed him.
So maybe this was a territorial thing. Maybe it was just trying to get him out of the area.
I mean, yeah, it could have been. Like I said, it's just it hanging around and kind of pacing, because we were talking about the other one felt more predatory. The other one was kind of like this. I don't know. Maybe it started out territorial, and maybe it was thinking about making it predation, and it just decided, he ain't worth it.
Yeah, Richie, I'm right there with you, man. I can tell you about falls. But you wanna gonna lead us into segment 6?
Yep. If you think being blindsided by something massive and unseen is terrifying, our final case tonight takes us somewhere darker, somewhere stranger, somewhere a man didn't just get hit, he vanished. Segment 6 is next. Take it
This
away.
is the Thanks, sir. This is the disappearance of Stephen Kubacki, 1978. This is documented in police reports, search and rescue logs, and tons of newspaper articles. This would happen on Lake Michigan shoreline, and it's beautiful in the summer up there, but in winter it becomes something else entirely. It becomes kind of a frozen wasteland. A white desert where the wind cuts like a blade and the world feels empty, hollow, and wrong. In February of 1978, Stephen Kubacki, a 23-year-old college student, set out on a solo cross-country ski trip near the edge of what the locals call the Michigan Triangle, a stretch of land and water known for disappearances, strange weather, and cases that never make sense. Stephen was experienced, smart, prepared. He told his friends he'd be back by that evening, but he never came home. When he didn't return, search teams mobilized immediately. The weather was brutal, sub-zero wind chill, blowing snow, visibility dropping by the hour, but they found something early on that made the case stand out from the start. His tracks. A clean, crisp set of ski tracks leading away from his car and heading straight toward the frozen lake. Searchers followed them for nearly a mile. The tracks were perfect. No signs of struggle, no hesitation, no deviation. Just a straight, confident line. Then, the tracks just stopped. Not faded, not blown over, not interrupted. They just ended. Right there on the ice. No return tracks, no broken surface, no hole like he'd fallen through. Just a clean set of tracks leading onto the lake, then nothing. Search and rescue teams spread out, sweeping the shoreline, the ice, the nearby woods. They found his skis and poles neatly placed on the ice as if he'd taken them off intentionally. But there were no footprints, no drag marks, no sign of where he'd gone. As if he had just stepped off the face of the earth. For days, searchers combed the area. Helicopters scanned the ice. Divers checked the water. Nothing. No body, no clothing, no gear, no sign of any kind of accident. The official conclusion was grim. Stephen had died on the ice and his body had been carried away by the lake. But the evidence didn't support that. Not the tracks, not the lack of a break in the ice, no, not the missing footprints, and the case went cold. And then, get this, 15 months later, Stephen walked into his father's house in Pittsfield, Massachusetts, 700 miles away, alive, wearing clothes that weren't his, carrying a small satchel he didn't recognize, and with absolutely no memory of the missing time. He said he woke up in a field in Massachusetts laying on his back, feeling warm, like he'd been asleep in the sun. He didn't know how he got there, didn't know where he'd been, and didn't know why he was wearing someone else's clothes. He just woke up there. When the police interviewed him, he couldn't explain anything. Not the missing year, not the distance, not the clothing, not the satchel, not the fact that he was in perfect health despite being missing through one of the harshest winters on record. He remembered skiing. He remembered the cold. He remembered the lake. And then, nothing. A blank, a complete void. An entire year from his life gone. Search and rescue team's notes were blunt. Tracks end on ice, no return, no break, no explanation. The sheriff's report was even simpler. Unresolved. And Stephen? He moved on with his life, but he never went back to that lake again, never skied that trail again, and never tried to fill in the missing year. Some disappearances ended with a body, some ended with a mystery. This one ended with a man returning, but not the same man who vanished.
Woo!
To me, that one seems more of like an alien abduction than a Bigfoot abduction.
Or he was Bigfoot's
Hillary says
love
he's a
toy.
PhD now.
Or he was Bigfoot's love toy for almost a year, and he just,
But why would it take him to Massachusetts?
I don't know. I'm just saying, he blocked
Why
it
did he
out.
wake up in a field near his dad's house when he went missing on the shores of Lake Michigan? That's like 1,500 miles away.
Maybe he curled into a ball and started sucking his thumb and said, "I want my daddy," and it finally got tired of hearing that and took him and laid him in a field next to his dad's house. I don't know.
House said E.T. poked him with a lighted finger. It's probing time. Richie says he thinks a UFO took him. I do too. That makes more sense than a Bigfoot abduction. Of course, none of that makes any sense, and the poor dude still doesn't know what happened to that year of his life. That's gotta suck. I mean, I've talked to people who've had missing time, 15, 20 minutes, an hour, a couple hours. I've never spoke to anybody that's missing a year. Hillary says he refused hypnotherapy because he said he wasn't suffering mental issues, so why poke the bear? Yeah, he might have remembered something he didn't want to remember. Miss Lene says psychotic break. Apparently he was perfectly healthy, no sign of it. But how do you explain, showing up in someone else's clothes with a satchel that he didn't have any explanation for? Curtis Murray says another dimension, a portal. Again, your guess is as good as mine. This is a weird one. I mean, the dude disappears on Lake Michigan skiing. Gone. Find the skis, they find the ski poles, but nothing else. And then he reappears more than 700 miles away a year later. And with his skis and his ski poles set off to the side like he'd taken them off, that's intentional.
Just like rifles and things that we've read about in the past being stacked up.
That's true. But this is a weird one, dude.
I think female Bigfoot took him for a year and he just mentally repressed it.
But it makes no sense that it would take him, 700 plus miles away. K. Bauer says Bigfoot Hilda kept him for, well, maybe he got Bigfoot progeny now.
Well, I mean, we talk about Bigfoots being kind of like people sometimes. Maybe they've got their own sex trafficking industry, and he ended up there. We had a girl go missing here in Pickens, and we ended up finding her in California. I mean, stranger things have happened.
I just got a major problem thinking there's a Bigfoot Epstein out there somewhere.
Stranger things have happened, DA. I'm just saying.
That ain't right. I legit feel sorry for that dude.
Squirrel Pelt probably speak the language just like money does to us.
Squirrel pelts and tree bark and good pine cones
and raspberry preserves.
Yeah. Now this one really legit freaks me out because there's no explanation for this. I mean, you could say aliens, or if you want to do it like the guy on Ancient Aliens. But you could say that, but we got no way to know, and that poor dude doesn't know. And I can understand wanting to avoid the hypnotherapy, because what if it was something traumatic? Or you unlock memories of laying on a freaking table being probed by aliens for a year. I wouldn't want to remember that. Dr. Sharp says test subject, very possible. What about this? What if it wasn't aliens? What if our own government grabbed him and just kept him doped up so he wouldn't remember? There's a drug called propofol, and in the hospital they call it the milk of amnesia, because if administered correctly, you will wake up and not know what planet you're on, let alone your name. It's a white liquid, and in large enough doses, it'll kill blocks of memory. Big blocks of memory. Generally, if you hit somebody with a small dose, they'll wake up and the entire previous day's fuzzy. Just a guy says, "Hold on, how long did MK Ultra run for?" Well, some say MK Ultra never ended. That they quote unquote canceled the project, but it just started right back up under another name. Hillary says in September of 2025, he released a memoir called The Disappearance, in which he admits that he does know what happened and that the disappearance was a planned choice. Oh, so the plot thickens. So this wasn't the case we thought it was. This was a case of him wanting to disappear. Minxie says propofol is fun. And when they put my pacemaker in, that's what they hit me with. Well, I guess I was a lot of fun when I was coming off of it because I was saying all kinds of random crap. Hillary says that's according to the Googles. Okay, well, then we'll have to take that with a grain of salt. The Googles aren't always trustworthy. PW, that's funny. But yeah, this is a very bizarre story. It would make sense that he just kept it to himself and disappeared for a while and finally decided to come back. But don't know if that's true or not. But I do know one thing. That is a weird story. And it would take something pretty messed up in my life for me to just basically fake my own disappearance and walk away. It would have to be something pretty freaking dramatic.
But people have done that before.
That is true. People have done it. But at 23 years old, what could be that bad?
At 23, there's a lot of stuff that you think's that bad that you got to run away from.
Yeah, looking back, man, I didn't have any problems at 23. I thought I did, but
exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Life had not yet begun to kick me in the nuts.
At 23, you don't think like we do at our age. Now,
Right.
like, I wish I had the problems that I had when I was in my 20s now.
Yeah, you look back at yourself at 18, 19, 20 years old and think, what the heck was I thinking? I had the world, man. Richie says, question DA, is that shot like Rohypnol? I don't know. It's not something you could get because Rohypnol is something that you can get if you've got the right connections. Propofol is one of those Schedule 3 high-end narcotics that only clinics have in hospitals, and it's not something I could see somebody taking to just chase a high, because you don't have that euphoric feeling. You have missing time, and that's about it. The world goes away, and you're not aware of anything until you come out of the grogginess.
Yeah,
and even then, you don't know what happened to you.
Rohypnol and GHB don't actually erase the time like the milk of amnesia does. It just makes it more fuzzy. I've talked with victims who've been hit with Rohypnol and GHB, and they know something happened. They just can't put the pieces together. It's like it's there, but it's just out of reach. They can't really put it together, but eventually it will come back. What DA's talking about, I don't really know that comes back. I think
I don't know anything I said while I was under Rohypnol. Not Rohypnol. While I was under the propofol, not a clue. I remember laying on the table and the anesthesiologist sitting in a chair right next to my head, and he goes, "All right," he said, "I'm gonna put this propofol into your IV now." He said, "It's going to take a little bit to take effect." He says, "What I would like you to do is just close your eyes and count back from 100. And when you wake up, it'll all be over." And I went 100, 99, and that's about as far as I got. I was gone.
I made the whoop.
And when I woke up back in the hospital room, Annette said I was like talking to dogs and all kinds of crap, calling dogs over to the bed to pet them, and I'm like, "There's no dog in this hospital. What was I doing?" Apparently, I was pretty out of it.
Yes, says Bill. Gamma hydroxybutyrate. That's GHB. The date rape drug.
Yep.
Rohypnol is what they commonly refer to as roofies.
Yeah.
But they both do basically the same thing.
But yeah, I can't see anybody wanting to use propofol to chase a high, because they're not going to get that euphoric effect from it. They're going to black out and then wake up confused. Brenda Sinning says propofol is what Michael Jackson supposedly overdosed on. It's a dangerous thing to take. I would not take it unless you're under an anesthesiologist or doctor's care, because there's a reason they call it the milk of amnesia. T. Davis says, yeah, propofol is serious stuff. I had a dental procedure, remember nothing. The doc asked my wife if I had a propensity to snore. Yeah, I kept back from 100. I made it to maybe 98. I mean, my memory gets real fuzzy after like 99. I'm like 100. It's like somebody flipped off the switch. You ever turn the power off to a record player while the record's still spinning? That's what it felt like. Isabel, yeah, that's why I quit taking gabapentin. They were giving it to me for back pain, and it was causing my memory to be gone. And I told them, I'm not taking this anymore. I'd rather be in pain than not be able to remember crap.
That's when you were having trouble.
Yeah, you remember that?
Trouble started. Yep.
Yeah, it took months to get that out of my system.
Yeah, because you were talking to me and Doc about that. Matter of fact, I think Doc was the one that told you that
one of the side effects was memory loss.
Because we were backstage talking about it, and you said he asked you what they had you on, and he's like, dude, he said, you know that messes with memory. And you're like,
I did not.
Really?
They didn't tell me any of the possible side effects, and I didn't, like an idiot, I didn't look them up. I went back to my doctor with a whole bottle of them things and set them on the desk. I'm like, yeah, I'm not taking those anymore. I'd rather be in pain and focused enough to write than write 8 pages of gibberish and think it's the greatest thing ever. Whew.
Hey, look at it this way. You could always go right for those Italian knockoff movies because...
Yeah, who needs talent for that?
Well, most of those scripts sounds like people who've been on gabapentin.
Yeah, I will just be in pain before I'll go back on that. Just not happening. Not doing it. I don't want to, have the mental acuity of a potato when I'm done. But if that's true, what Google said, and he planned that changes that whole story.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was a creepy story of a disappearance. But if that's true about this dude, that's bad. Well, tonight we crossed a line most people don't even realize is there. We started with shadows in the tree line, silent watchers that move up when you move, stop when you stop, and vanish the moment you try to understand what you're looking at. We stepped into places where the woods don't just watch, they react. A figure pacing a boat on the Klamath, a silhouette stepping off a cliff without an ounce of fear, something running alongside a truck at highway speed, although I don't think 35 to 40 mile an hour is really highway speed, but hey, what do I know? Rocks thrown with purpose, with force, and with intent. A hunter blindsided by something powerful enough to break bone and quiet enough to disappear without a trace. And finally, A man who walked onto a frozen lake and didn't walk off again. Or did he? And I gotta leave that one up to y'all, folks. Tracks that ended where they should, gear placed neatly, deliberately. A disappearance that defied weather, logic, and time. Or did it? And a return that raised more questions than answers. These aren't just stories, folks. These aren't legends. These are documented encounters. Real people, real evidence, real fear, except maybe possibly that last one. And if there's one thing tonight made clear, it's this. Whatever's out there, it ain't random. It ain't confused. It ain't stumbling into our world by accident. It watches us. It tests us. It warns us. And sometimes it acts. The woods are older than we are, darker than we understand, and far less empty than we pretend they are. So the next time you're out there on a trail, on a ridge, or on the edge of a lake, and the forest goes dead quiet, don't tell yourself it's nothing, because silence is never nothing. Silence is attention. Silence is awareness. Silence is the moment before something decides what to do next. And if you've had an encounter of your own, or if you've seen something, heard something, or felt something you can't explain, send your story to us, to DARoberts at DARoberts.net. Your experience might be the next case we investigate. And if you want to help keep the Nightmare Hunters alive and growing, make sure you like this episode, share it with someone who loves the strange and the bizarre, and subscribe so you never miss what comes next. This was Nightmare Hunters 403, folks, when the woods strike back. Stay safe out there, stay aware, and remember, if you think you're alone in the wilderness, you're not. Robbie?
Yes, sir.
That was some interesting cases. We'll have even better ones this coming Saturday.
Yeah, that. I mean, 2 of the cases were kind of like, but
yeah,
the rest
but
of them
not every one of them checks out. I mean,
no, and but that's what I like about the way we do things is we don't read them and take them at face value. If there's something that's kind of hinky,
we call it out.
We call it out, and there was definitely some things that wasn't stirring the Kool-Aid in both of them.
Yeah, there were some things that just didn't quite add up. 2 + 2 was like 7.
Yeah, some things that didn't jihad.
That's right.
And for those of you who don't know what that is, you ain't from the country.
But folks, check out our awesome affiliates. I'll tell you what, Robbie, we'll flip a coin. I'll do the affiliates and you do the authors. How about that?
Sounds good.
All right, well, folks, make sure you guys check out our affiliates. We're very proud of our affiliates. They're all veteran-owned, first responder-owned companies, and we're proud to support them. So check out the good folks over at Dark Angel Medical. Doc's a great dude. You guys know Doc. And he makes some of the best med kits available. Everything from the basic ouch pouch, which is just a basic first aid kit, all the way up to advanced trauma kits. And I take one of his kits, at least one, pretty much everywhere I go. That night on Combs Ferry, we had about 7 of those kits passed around. And if you're going to be doing anything out in the woods, even if it's not Bigfoot related, camping, fishing, hunting, backpacking, going to the range, take a med kit, because you never know when that tourniquet might come in handy, or that Israeli pressure bandage might save a life. Things happen, folks, and like Doc says, the time chooses you. So check out the good folks over at Dark Angel Medical, and don't forget to use discount Cryptid20 for 20% off your order. And let them know we sent you. And while you're checking them out, check out the other awesome folks over at Scallywag Tactical. Scallywag Tactical makes some of the best knives you can get. They are just absolutely fantastic. Knife for every occasion. And as Richard Marchenko, the Demo Dick, the Shark Man of the Delta, used to say, the founder of SEAL Team 6, by the way, now, Demo Dick used to say, knives are like credit cards. Don't leave home without at least one. And he said they're like credit cards in another respect, because you should never just carry just one. And I kind of take that to heart. I usually have 2 or 3 on me at any given time. Northwood says, I took Dark Angel kit with me when I went to Alaska last year. That's a good thing to pack in your bag right there. So there it is. Okay, I was waiting to put that up. Check out the good folks over at Scallywag Tactical. Check out all their amazing blades, and they got some great swag too. I got a French press coffee maker that I just absolutely love. I use that thing all the time. But at discount at checkout, use discount code DA Roberts 10 for 10% off your whole order. And then finally, least of all, our newest, check out the good fellows over at SigwoArms.com. Challen, who's in the Challen Bogus, who's in the chat, he might be going to work for Sigwo, which is pretty cool. Sigwo's a great company. They're always involved in doing something. You guys can check them out on the website. They do hosted events where you can go and try out suppressors. You can try automatic weapons. They have a lot of those programs go on every year. Also, if you're local, they also host carrying conceal classes. But they manufacture their own firearms. They have pretty much all the major brands as well. But check them out. If you want something with the Wild Hunt logo or the Dark Frontiers logo, those are the folks that'll get it done for you. If you need a Whisper Pickle, also known as a suppressor, or want to check any of the great deals they have on in-house made ammunition, check them out. You can get some really good deals. I was just in there yesterday. They're currently low on 9mm that they made. They're going to be doing another whole run of them. But they've got 300 Blackout and 5.56, plenty of that. So check them out again, SigwoArms.com. Check them out. Let them know we sent you, and use discount code Bigfoot5 for 5% off your order. If you're a veteran or first responder, let them know, and they will bump that up to 10% off. So check out Sigwo. Talk to the Codys, and you'll be happy you did. So Robbie, tell us a little bit about where we can find your books, Lucas' books, and maybe even my books.
All right. You can find all three of us, me, Luca, and DA. You can find our books on Amazon.com. You can also find Lucas' books at lucatjacobs.com. You can find DA's at daroberts.net. And coming soon, you'll be able to find somebody else's books on Amazon. Hopefully Docs will be ready. Him and Luca are working on the final things back and forth, and we got to do his KDP author page and walk him through getting everything set up. But it's pretty much done. He's done the final approval on his cover. He's just waiting for a few little tweaks here and there to get everything done, and it should be ready to go out. So check him out. DA's current book he's got out right now is Devil the Absarokas, but he's getting on up there on codename Wild Hunt Leviathan Down, and his newest one he's working on. I don't know which one's going to come out first. I would say probably Mount Dora is probably going to end up coming out first, wouldn't you say?
Mount Dora is one of those ones I just can't stop working on. I'm enjoying the project so much. It's called Hangman's Legacy, which is a new series, but the first book is going to be called The Mount Dora Incident. And this is one of those books that I just can't get out of my mind. I'm really loving this book. And
Dorothy got it. She got the term. Jihad is a term for plowing. It's to tell the mules which way to go, left or right. I can't remember which one was which, but G and Ha meant left and right.
Pretty sure G was left.
I think so, but I remember hearing my great grandfather use it, but I was a kid. So anyway,
it's been a hot minute since I've heard it used.
Yeah, but good call, Dorothy. Anyway, and my newest one that's out right now, that's up right now, DA's got it on the screen. Wild Hunt Shadow Hunters, Project Manticore. I'm about 17 or 18,000 words into Blood of Valgard. I'm probably about 30,000 words into Valley of Bones. I hadn't worked on that one in a while because kind of like DA with the Mount Dora incident, Blood of Valgard just kind of took over. I also got one or two others that I'm kind of started putting together the research and the outlines for. So be looking for those books. Luca she just put something out the other day. She's got a couple more projects that she's coming out with or she's working on. Luca does all of our covers. too, by the way. She's a very, very talented artist on top of being a very, very talented writer. So go check her books out, lucatjacobs.com, amazon.com. Check out DA's books at Amazon and daroberts.net. Check out my books at amazon.com. Go follow all our author pages. That'll give you heads up when they're released. And like DA always says, y'all know me, I'm not one that likes to toot my own horn, but if you read our books and you like them, give a review, because reviews help us independent authors. Because they have to have at least 50 reviews, DA, before Amazon starts even pushing them. And then once you get up over 100, they really start,
they'll incorporate it into the newsletters and promote it.
So if you read them and you like them, you don't have to write a synopsis based, 5-paragraph thing. If you liked it, put great story, really like this. That's all you got to put. And really, you don't have to put that much, but give it a star rating. That helps us out a lot. It helps push them out, and then pushes it past our normal, which y'all are great. We love that y'all love our books, but the more reviews that y'all give them, the further it pushes them out into people that are not members of the show that may never see the books because they don't get pushed out there. So help us out like that. That really helps us in those algorithms, because that's what drives everything. It drives this show, drives our book sales, everything. So,
absolutely.
And all of us have all 3 formats available, which are paperback, Kindle, and Audible. So, matter of fact, I'm going back and re-listening to Heart of. I was telling DA this before the show. I'm going back and re-listening to Heart of Iron as I'm writing Blood of Valgard, just to make sure that I've got all the stuff that he's already set up in Valgard. I've got to make sure it's all 100% lined up. So, I mean, how many times you think that I've listened to Lakeview Man and Odin's Call? Probably well over 100 times each. So, I mean,
and to me, that's just amazing that someone would want to listen to one of those that many times.
Oh yeah, so go check them out. We love for y'all to enjoy these books. I had Chris Oil was talking to me today, and he said that his books or our books help him get through his work day. And I said, that's the kind of stuff DA and I like to hear.
Absolutely.
DA made this universe, and hey Jess, DA made this universe, and Doc and I have now started writing in this universe, and we were talking about this backstage. It's cool because I write about Declan, Doc writes about Declan, and DA writes about Declan. When you read Declan from DA, that's Declan. But when you read about him from me, you can still tell it's Declan, but it's just a little bit different voice. Same thing with Doc. His is a little bit different from mine, but
it's Declan from a different perspective.
Yeah, exactly. It's from a different, and it's almost like, you got 3 people telling the same story, but it's from 3 different perspectives. And each character is you're going to be able to tell who that character is, but they're going to have a little bit different voice, just little minor things that are different. I try to make sure I write Declan as close to how DA writes him as he does, but there's still subtle differences in my writing style that makes things a little bit different. And, DA was talking about how cool that is to write about or read about the same character from 3 different perspectives. Still know it's the exact same character, but it's just 3 different perspectives of it. And, that's something that the 3 of us have really enjoyed in our little brainstorming sessions about tying all these books together. And, it's been fun. And, we got to talk about that. I think it was Saturday. We were talking about how cool it is that how all 3 of us met. DA kind of got the ball rolling, or did get the ball rolling, and the things that he wrote years before he met either one of us, and now they're coming together. And it just, the way he wrote it, it lined up perfectly for the things that I did, which lined up perfectly for the way things that Doc's done. And it's you know, I know I'm kind of nerding out and fanboying about it, but it's cool to be able to integrate all these stories together and have them tie in and make sense and have y'all enjoy them. So that's why we do what we do.
Absolutely. And folks, we appreciate each and every one of you guys. We really do. You guys make the Nightmare Nation a family, and we're really proud to know each and every one of you. And we're continuing to grow, and we're enjoying having everybody with us. And we're really excited where the future is going to be for this channel. So if you haven't had a chance yet, please hit that like, share, and subscribe. And we would love to have you part of the Nightmare Nation. And tell everybody you know that enjoys content like this. Share the channel. We would sure appreciate it. Help us continue to get our name out there and help us continue to grow. But as we're winding things down, one of the things I always want to do is mention the 22 a Day Foundation. We lose 22 veterans a day to suicide, and that is 22 too many. So reach out to your friends and family that are first responders, that are veterans or even still serving. Let them know you're thinking about them. Let them know you care, because they're fighting demons that a lot of folks we just wouldn't understand. So let them know they're not alone. Let them know they don't have to face those demons alone. Let them know, tell them, don't let the hard days win, because at least 22 times a day, the hard days are winning. Let's get that number down to 0, folks. And as we close her out, one of the things that I'm pretty proud of us doing is a toast. It's from an old Irish drinking song called The Parting Glass. If you haven't heard the song, I definitely suggest you go on YouTube and search the Parting Glass. The High Kings does my favorite version of it, but there's about a dozen. Even Ed Sheeran does a version. But it's a beautiful, haunting tune, and it's played all over the world at Irish pubs at the end of the night when folks are going home. But if you listen to the lyrics, it's not just talking about saying goodnight when the bar's closing. It's not about, raising a glass to your friend for last call. It's about saying goodbye to those we've lost along the way. And it's a beautiful tune. It's very haunting. And the chorus of it goes like this. And if you guys would raise a glass with me, we would sure appreciate it. The chorus says, "But since it fell into my lot that I should rise and you should not, I'll gently rise and softly call, good night and joy be to you all." Good night, everybody. Slán Java. We'll see you guys on Saturday night. Good night and God bless. Thank you folks for being with us.
Slán.
Plains, the winds are howling, saloon doors swinging, shadows growling. 3 lawmen stand tough as rawhide. Yeah, Doc and DA, nothing can abide. Whiskey shots and poker faces, staring down the darkest spaces in this town where legends roam. These boys bring justice, sending evil home. Cryptid lawmen, wild and free, hunting monsters for all to see. With silver bullets and grit of steel, they fight the darkness, make the demons squeal. From dusty canyons to moonlit plains, justice rides with wind and rains. Cryptid lawmen, a fearsome sight, standing tall against the endless night. Jed's a howler, claws of steel. Doc's a biter, makes the devil real. But DA's a shifty one, a shape-shifting soul. Can turn to anything, takes any form, takes control. Tonight the chupacabras come to town, sucking the life from all around. But these lawmen, they ain't afraid. They'll face the darkness unafraid. Cryptid lawmen, wild and free, hunting monsters for all to see. With silver bullets and grit of steel, they fight the darkness, make the demons squeal. From dusty canyons to moonlit plains, justice rises against the endless night. Bat wings flap, the air grows cold, a chilling trap. But these lawmen, they're ready to fight underneath the pale moonlight. Jet and Doc transform with a howl. DA shifts, becomes a night owl. Together they stand, a force so strong against the evil right in the road. Cryptid lawmen, wild and free, hunting monsters for all to see. With silver bullets and grit of steel, they fight the darkness, make the demons squeal. From dusty canyons to moonlit plains, justice rides with wind and rains. Cryptid lawmen, a fearsome sight, standing tall against the endless night.